as soon as possible. Is he already gone? We've lost him. No, Councillor Morris. Oh. Someone want to text him to tell him to... Sorry. Okay, it looks like our technical issues have been resolved, so we are back online. And Councillor Crowther was halfway through a question. Maybe start from the start.
Yep. So in the 22nd July meeting where it talks about Council's principle of balanced budget confirming written back expenditure from capital to operational categories that should have been funded by rates should be funded from surplus, and then secondly confirms that if there's further available rate surplus, it should be used to apply to any unfunded depreciation. So I guess now that we're in a flip side of that, which is we don't have a surplus, we have a deficit, can you just clarify how that deficit is addressed and how these other matters that would have been addressed by the surplus will now be addressed?
So in terms of our expenditure that we planned and rated for, in the year, we do have a surplus. So all these costs are, and that's because activity slowed down, you know, and we were talking about that earlier in the year. But that surplus, because we'd budgeted some of it to flow into capital, and it shouldn't actually, it's kind of eating up that surplus already. So, yeah, so if you got to a balanced budget, you'd probably say, okay, our rates is funding that. The amount that's gone over, which is the deficit, was always affecting your debt because it was, well, except for something unbudgeted and unexpected, which would be, say, an overspend on the art gallery or something like that, it will have been budgeted as capital. So yes, you have an element of increased debt, but it's only a portion of that because some of it's just a reclassification and you'd funded it as debt. So to the extent possible, when we've reclassified it, we've used that rates surplus that came from this year's operations being less, as we tidied up the work in progress and the digital treatment, and the rest of it is debt funding. Yeah.
Through the chair, I think it'd be helpful to probably have the tables and reconciliations things in more detail, because I think partly for us, but partly also for the public to sort of see. Second question is whether we can make a change to what I see as sort of a significant page, which is the Mayor and Councillors page, where the very first line on there is
Councillor Crowther, what page are you on there?
Sorry, on page 100, where it has Tauranga has a mayor and 9 councillors, each dedicated to representing their local community across the city. I prefer it just to say to representing their city, and then in the next 2 sentences it says the council is made up of 9 ward councillors and a mayor. Each councillor, rather than represents a distinct ward, ensuring localised blah-de-blah, just each councillor, or each ward councillor, ensures localised and community focused, or potentially just to, I could come up with a wording like I was saying, each councillor is elected by a ward, ensuring localised and community focused representation across the city, because there is quite a difference between being a councillor who is legally obliged to represent their ward and what we are, which is we happen to have a mechanism for being elected, which is an award, but our role is across the city. And I think if we want to capture that ward focus, it's better to do it literally. So each councillor is elected by a ward, ensuring localised and community-focused representation across the city. So I don't know if that's easy to do or whether I need to put it in a formal motion or...
We can make that change.
I think that that's something that we can, you can make adjustments. Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Chair. I had the same comment, and I think both page 100 and 102, so our mayor and councillors and then how we govern, I think both of those are messy at the moment. I don't think they, page 102, how we govern, talks about the fact that we're responsible for everything that we don't delegate. That's quite a negative way of saying we're actually the governors of the city. So I would definitely like Co-Pilot to actually give us how those 2 pages should look, because it's facts. And I definitely, I think the wording, I think as Councillor Crowther said, we are definitely not each dedicated to representing our local community. We are elected by the local community and we represent the whole city. And while we're there, on page 101, the photos, if I just look at Councillor Roseboom photo versus Councillor Taylor, can we just get some consistency in the head shot versus head shoulders, because they look a bit odd and it doesn't look that professional.
They look a bit on the best of days, but no, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I think as an action, we can quite easily look at 100 and 102 and maybe work offline that with Councillor Crowther and the Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much. If there's no further questions, oh, there is still questions. Jeepers.
Sorry, just on a couple of quick things. Page 107, this is just around the meeting attendance. I think we should just, for Councillor Rolleston, although we say May 25, just maybe put in brackets as to how many meetings there was. So, he, you know, it's a, looks like he's done nothing, but
I disagree.
comparatively, but just give him, you know, 5 out of 5 or whatever it is, you know, to just make that very clear. And just the other thing, I may have missed it in the 300 odd pages, but you know, we sort of talked about, let's, you know, we've got a sort of where your rates go, but you know, again, what are the key things that we delivered? You know, how many potholes did we fix? How many k's of road did we reseal? How many k's of new road did we build? You know, how many k's of water pipe did we replace or build new? You know, all those metrics. You know, how many tons of rubbish did we collect? You know, how many? I see there was some stuff around the water that we delivered. You know, how much wastewater did we treat? Just some metrics as to what we actually do in this city. You know, I think would be really useful. You know, how much new community space did we deliver? Just a, you know, a real page of just saying, here's what we do as a council, and this is what we've done in the last 12 months. So we understand where that you know, $300 odd million of capital spending is actually going. So yeah, I'd be really keen to see something like that.
So are you suggesting that there's effectively a highlights page of delivery?
Yeah.
Okay, is that something that we can look at?
There is some already on page 70, but we can add more to that.
70.
Do you want to check that quickly?
I think we need to fix, we need to update that.
Okay, I don't. Sorry, is this 70 of? Oh, I see. So it's.
Perhaps it's something that we could note that you've...
Yeah, no, I have looked at that page, but it doesn't really give me, you know, all that. Like, it tells me how much diverted from landfill, but it doesn't tell me, you know, exactly what we collected. I just, you know, really simple, you know, it doesn't tell me how many roads, k's of roads or k's of pipes that we've done. You know, the real basic stuff that we, you know.
So presentationally, are you thinking on that page where it's, this is how much your rates pay for, that presentationally you'd get this is actually what you get for it, rather than the infographics, just trying to get a sense of...
Well, no, I like the graphics, but there's just nowhere I can't tell what we've done. You know, like we talk about certain projects that we've delivered, but we don't, you know, there's a whole lot of stuff and a whole lot of hundreds of millions of dollars that we've spent that we don't communicate actually what that's been spent on. And it's not necessarily the numbers, it's actually the physical, you know, this is what we've delivered. Yeah.
So some of that does come through that story of the groups of activities, but it isn't punchy. I get that, and you're wanting it just in a summarised form.
Yeah, just to summarise, yeah.
We'll come have a look at that.
Numbers that come in.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I think Councillor Crowther...
Yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah, so the Deputy Mayor's just said, you know, like that video from a transport team was fantastic, actually explaining what they do. some of those numbers. So, how many road cones did we pay for? Things like that. It's just really telling our story is what we really want to see.
Please don't tell me you're after an audio book as well. We'll finish on you, Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, we could lead with road cones if you want. Just on page 107, which the Mayor had talked about, we dropped off an important point from 105, which is previous committee structure. It says not all councillors were appointed to all committees. We need to kind of keep that phrasing there. So not all councillors are appointed to all committees, because otherwise it looks like a lot of us don't go to meetings that we're at. Just to make that. And the other quick thing was, I had a question in terms of on page 62, number 13, back to there. Could we have a list of all the city centre OPEX of a capital nature projects and the costs and the schedule for debt repayment for those? Because I'd asked for a list of all the CapEx, and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm just really wanting to understand, which things are operational in terms of the OPEX of capital nature, and which things are genuine capital and which things are genuine OPEX. It seems incredibly complex, but it is such a huge chunk of money. And we still haven't come back to, we had a sort of a formal resolution around one city centre OPEX of a capital nature where we reversed that. And Tracy will probably remember what it was because I can't. But we said we were going to come back to this and assess that. So to maybe come back at the most appropriate time in the next few weeks, whichever meeting that is, to let us make that sort of decision around it.
Finally, Deputy Mayor. Welcome.
Sorry, so next time when we put an annual plan in the papers, can we just have a sidebar that we can actually find out? I'm still, on 361 pages, it's hard to find the number I want to look at, but there's head count. I'd still like some more time to look at whether we've got enough information. And the other thing, when we talk about balanced budget, which is a heading on a table, you've got revenue, you've got expenditure, you don't have the number that says revenue less expenditure. Can we just add that in, please? Because if you don't have that number, you don't know if you're balanced or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So no further questions of staff. Thank you, staff. And I now call for a mover and a seconder. Moved Councillor Baker. Seconded the Mayor. Mover, you wish to speak?
Good questions, good responses. Let's keep it moving.
The seconder, would you wish to speak now?
Yeah, I just very quickly, it's great that we've got this time to be able to mould this. Obviously, not being adopted to the end of October, but we'll go into it with the annual resident survey. Is a lot around that storytelling and actually explaining what we do, and I think there's an opportunity here to do that. So that we do tell our story, which I think is really important, so that people can feel like they understand where their rates are being spent, and whether they're getting value for that. So that's just a sort of overall direction, and as we go forward, hopefully we can keep making these changes to make it more readable and more succinct, telling that story.
Thank you. Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, I think it's important that we acknowledge the work of the staff on this, and also although we've now got a non-balanced budget, I think we're heading towards the right direction of it. One thing I did want to comment on was our capital delivery, because there has been a bit of talk amongst elected members, but in the community, around how much we're actually delivering. And I think we're sort of, when you look at the numbers compared to previous years, we are still quite sort of in a typical situation where this year it's 23% below what was budgeted in the long-term plan. And some people might say, well, that's not very good, but I think that's typical. We've had 25, 31, 24% below in previous years. So I think we're sort of doing what, well, this council certainly normally does. The question is, you know, how do we actually maybe tighten up on some of those numbers and look to deliver more? I know that's a focus for the mayor and councillors, but I think we need to keep it in a context. This is big numbers, and to me the bigger issue is ensuring that we do actually balance the budget and we do actually keep on the track that we're trying to get on with the debt and not let that blow out, because the latest numbers don't look like that's the case.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. I think further to Councillor Crowther's comment and the comments we've made, I think it's really important we talk about, when we're talking about a balanced budget, I've spent a lot of time when we're talking about the annual plan consultation, got a lot of feedback on the operating budget, and I don't want to find that we think we've underspent on capital so we can just overspend on operating costs that just, we've already raised the money, we've got it funded, so it's not needing to be explained to me. It's really, really important we separate out what is operating costs, because they're the ones we want to keep down, and they're the ones that we keep hearing they're sliding up again. So to me, when we talk about balanced budget, it's actually, I'm keen to see that separated between capital and operating, because it's the operating costs that I think our people want to see come down, knowing that we do need to keep spending on the capital, the assets for the city.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Roseboom.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one in relation to the Mayor's point on numbers of staff within the council. Can we make a note in there somewhere referencing that we've brought city ops back in-house? We're no longer contracting out, so the staff numbers, although they're changing, they're just working in different places. It would help clarify where the staff numbers actually are increasing and decreasing. And in relation to the city hops, well done to the entire team. The sports field's looking amazing, ready for Ames games. Well done, team.
Thank you, Councillor Roseboom. Look around, no further debate or discussion, so I'll go back to you, Councillor Baker, if you have anything further to say. Nothing. Okay, you'll see the recommendations up on the screen. I will read them quickly. Put the motion that the City Delivery Committee, A, receives the report presentation of draft 2025 annual report. B, notes that the full document is in designed format to be presented to Audit New Zealand as a final draft on 1 September 2025. C, notes that the attachments provided do not currently include consolidated accounts or taxation and may be subject to further change through the review and audit process. And D, notes that a final audited annual report will be presented to the 29th of October 2025 council meeting for adoption. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? It is carried unanimously. I won't reread it.
Number and B and B.
In B, yeah, B. It's just a tense, yeah.
No, just take those words out and don't replace them.
Oh, you will need a tense. Yeah, you either have was, or, yeah, was would grammatically fit.
I won't reread this, but we will take the vote again. So all those in favour? Those against? That is carried. Thank you. once again invite staff to the table.
I will take this report as read. You were presented with the first cut of Treasury metrics at the July CDC committee meeting. This report is just to confirm that all matters within the Treasury policy have been complied with, and I've just provided all the usual metrics and graphs there, and just open for questions.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? And once again, starting with the regular suspects, the Mayor.
Yeah, look, I think overall, and obviously this is sort of related to some of probably the capital delivery program, which we can probably specifically question, but, it's a good outcome, I guess, around, that we do have lack of, or the debt is lower than both forecast and in the long-term plan. Obviously, that is a good thing, but qualified by if we're under-delivering in the capital program, maybe it's not such a good thing, but we'll get into that detail. I had a couple of questions. Firstly, have we got a view on interest rates and where they're going, and sort of a strategy around fixing, trying to get close to the lower end of the market? That's my first question.
Every time we need to make a decision on borrowing, we engage our Treasury advisors, who are Bancorp, who help us consider our current maturity profile, the rates at the time with the LGFA fixed versus floating, and what our fixed debt profile looks like at the time as well, to ensure that we remain compliant there. We have been debating the fixed versus floating with them over the last few times that we've borrowed, because the fixed rates are a bit lower than the floating at the moment. So to get that benefit to the ratepayer today, we can fix, and we have done some fixed debt in the last 6 months on the green loans, because we got a 5 basis point discount on those loans at the same time. But the majority of our debt that we're issuing, or the borrowing that we're doing, is still on a floating basis, just to make the most of the final OCR cuts that are expected to come.
Cool. That's just making sure we are all over that and considering that, so we try to lock in some fixed debt at the bottom of the interest rate cycle. Then, yeah, just on 12, I just wanted some clarification around that, and that's we're talking about total borrowing approved for the 24-25 year was 385 million. Then a further 54 million was approved around the change in funding from IFF funding to being on balance sheet, and then the actual borrowing was 355 million. I just wanted to get clarification. Is that 355 million against the 385 million, or is it against the 439 million, which would have been the IFF, that extra 54 million plus, what was approved?
The 355 million is essentially against the 439, because that became our updated borrowing limit, or amount that we could borrow that year. So total borrowing for the year for all projects that we've debt funded during the year was 355 million.
Okay, no, that's great clarification. Thanks. So, and what is that? 85 million underspend effectively? Is that directly related to the lower capital program?
It's predominantly related to the lower capital spend, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor, following an order, and then Councillor Crowther.
Thank you. So I guess in the executive summary and this is relating to the question on interest rates, so in point 3, the executive summary says it also aims to achieve. I would like an executive summary to have the author's view on whether you did achieve it. I've lost my page now. So on 66, it just said point 3. So we talk about that you're confirming that they're made in line with Treasury policy, but the comment, it also aims to achieve the lowest possible net interest costs obtainable within the policy. I would like that to say what we've done, which is in line with your advisors, that you believe you are achieving the lowest interest rate based on the advice you're getting from an external advisor, because that just gives us more information on what's actually happening.
Yes, okay, yep.
And then I just the comment on the background. I think the fact that our net debt is 138 million lower than budgeted is actually should be in the executive summary, and I would have thought that with an explanation that mostly due to the lower capital spend, and I'd also like in there that whether that creates a risk or not, because, and that's again a comment that I'll make in the capital projects paper. Nobody says, is this a risk that we're 138 million under spend? So I guess my question is, can that be taken for next time, just to actually have a little bit more an opinion and a confirmation that we're doing the right thing, please.
I can comment on whether that's a risk from a Treasury perspective, but the purpose of this report is to report against the Treasury policy as opposed to our capital delivery. So I'll probably try to keep it within those that scope.
That's fair call, and I'll make the comment again shortly.
Councillor Crowther?
You're just digging into the debt figure. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks to me like the reason our net debt is lower is nothing to do much with what we did this year. It's to do with the starting point being $121 million lower last year before we arrived on the scene. Is that a fair summary?
So I provided, yesterday we sent an email with the debt reconciliation, which you had been provided during annual report workshops, and I added a bit onto the end there that shows where we actually landed against where we forecast. So when we set the annual plan 2026 budget, we had already forecast to be $60 million lower in our debt balances for the 2025 financial year. Where we have landed is an additional $77 million lower for the total of 138, which you see in the report here. And in that, at that time, and I think it was March when I did that debt forecast, that was based on the capital forecast being provided by the business at the time, and they've delivered less than that. And there's been, I guess, some other cash flow timing that kind of plays out throughout the year as well, because I don't borrow for specific projects. I look at a holistic approach for the entire organisation when we're getting rates money in, when we're getting big grant lump sums in, and I only borrow the amount that we need to cover for the next month or so. So in terms of capital delivery, it is driven by that lower capital delivery, but it is driven by some other elements to do with cash flows.
Just to follow up, so at the start of the opening debt balance, at the start of the year was forecast to be 1189, and it was 1,068 million, and we've ended up having a very similar increase to what was forecast. The difference being that instead of going from 1189 to 1450, we went to from 1,068 to 1,312. Like, it's $17 million difference. So I guess what I'm getting at, unless there's something in that reconciliation that's not there, what we have done is to reduce it by $17 million. And when I say we, certainly not the councillors. I think it's just just the lower capex. But when you add it all together, we're 17 million different to what it would have been if we'd added the same amount that we were planning to do this year. Is that correct?
Sorry, can you clarify your question?
I can show you the picture, but so we have, when I look at the reconciliation, we have added $94 million more than was anticipated, and we have reduced $111 million from what was anticipated. So that gives a net difference of 17 million, which explains why we've only gone to 1.312 million. Because it's all in the starting point, isn't it? And I know you track it differently because you're borrowing, as you say, you have to go month by month or whatever but in terms of a big picture, in terms of looking at our year-by-year debt, when we found out when the commissioners found out that the year-end debt last year was so much lower, that immediately meant this year's debt would be lower, wouldn't it?
Yes, and I'm not going to try and do the head maths at the same time as you, because I'll get myself in trouble. But so 2024, we had lower debt of $121 million. We took that into account when we reforecast the 2025 closing debt balances.
Sure.
But that got absorbed, as in that reconciliation, that did get absorbed by higher forecasts, specifically around the Te Manawa-Taki Otipapa IFF coming on balance sheet, and then the lower budgeted grants. So that's what generated the forecast for year end to only come down by 60 million as opposed to 121 million. So I guess that's essentially banked, and then we've underdelivered further by that 77 million. So yeah.
It's where I'm leading to is when we then forecast for next year, and so looking ahead to the year ended June 2026, we have the LTP scheduled to have gone from 1.45 billion to 1.64 billion, and now we've sort of got this increase of $10 million on that, so very much the same amount of debt. I guess the question I'm trying to get at is, if you then take a starting point that says we're 138 million lower, how much of that is baked in and how much is not baked in? Because we've actually, on that forecast, we haven't allowed anything for the reduction that happened back under the commissioners, which was a real number, as you just said, and it's driving this year's number, and surely it will continue to drive next year's unless we don't have visibility of what's happening with the capital program yet. So is that all baked into this coming financial year?
So what is already baked into the 2026 annual plan net debt budget is that $61 million lower debt amount. So that's baked in. That's part of your budget. All things remaining equal for the rest of the year, the $77 million in addition to that 61, which brings us to the 138, is what we would expect to be lower in net debt at the end of 2026. All things remaining equal.
That's incredibly helpful. So, and then we can always adjust that with capital projects as we go, I guess, like we did this year. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. Just conscious of time. Is everyone happy with questions so far? We can thank staff. Yeah, we'll make this the last and then we'll move.
Yeah, so just on paragraph 25 on page 69, this is our average cost of borrowing against the benchmark, which is the 15-year swap rates. So obviously there's quite a divergence in that, and is that just a timing issue around the benchmark moving quicker than our, obviously when you've got fixed mortgages, etc., it takes a little bit longer to come down, is that?
Correct. All of our floating debt is reset every 3 months, so we have quite a bit of a lag whenever there's an OCR cut to see that benefit on our floating book. And the benchmark rate, it's averaging of from the 3-month swap rate all the way to the 15-year swap rate, with percentages applied to each of those tenures to average out a, I guess, a perceived benchmark rate.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much. So now questions of staff are finished. I now call for a mover and a seconder, please. Mover is a Deputy Mayor and a seconder, Councillor Roseboom. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
No, just I think we are enjoying getting a little bit more information each time we see the quarterly update, and I think it's good that we've got good questions on it. That this is a really important part of how we are financing the operation, well, the Tauranga City Council. So happy to move the report that we see in front of us.
Thank you. The seconder, Councillor Roseboom, you wish to speak?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I'd just like to thank staff for the Treasury update and realise that we are in a very fluid financial system, but I'd be conscious that we take advantage of all interest rate cuts, both locally and international, to get the best possible deal for the ratepayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion, debate? Councillor Crowther.
Yeah,
the floor
thank you.
is yours.
Thank you for the report. I think given what we've found out in the last week around projected debt over the decade, it'd be really helpful to ensure that our discussions around that are in public, that we sort of seem to be looking at scheduling a briefing or public excluded workshop or something, from what I understand, or what I've been told. And but I think this is a really significant matter. There was obviously stuff in the election campaign last year which threw a lot of mud at my direction and some other people's directions, especially Garth Matheson and John Robson in that campaign, who were talking about $2.95 billion debt by June of 2034. And a number of candidates said it was scaremongering. We're now close to $1 billion worse off in some of the numbers that are being floated, let's say. And I guess what I'm keen to do is find out how much is real, how much is not real, but we're certainly not heading down. And reading the Mayor, I think, of Waitomo, who's in his election campaign talking about how much he's reduced debt, which is a real challenge in a council like that. And there are a number of other councils where the mayors are campaigning on that platform and still delivering infrastructure. I think we have to really look at this incredibly closely, because this is going to be the undoing of future generations unless we get on top of it.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. Mayor Mahe.
Well, I think my reading of this is that we're doing well from a debt perspective. We're significantly under what is forecast, and obviously we've just got to understand whether that's a good or bad thing around the capital program. But we're well on track and very comfortable with tracking under budget, which is fantastic, and I think that is a bonus. And if we can continue to deliver capital program at good value for money, then we should see a further reduction in debt compared to what is planned. Understanding that there's some decisions that we've made, for example, bringing IFF for Te Manawa in-house, and even once you add that on, we're still significantly under budget. So look, I think it's a pretty big positive, and I agree with Councillor Crowther. We've got to continue to look at debt and make sure that we are being very prudent, that everything we borrow is needed and is going into the facilities and the infrastructure that the city needs, and obviously balancing the budget, for example, is one example of not incurring debt to live day to day, which is a very important and prudent financial management tool.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? No. Deputy Mayor, no need for a right of reply. Right, that being the situation, I won't, they're up on your On the screen you'll see, I will not read this. Give you a few minutes to take that on board quickly. I mean a few seconds. Right, so all those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. We now move to item 9.4, the Annual Resident Survey Report 2024-25, which for the public listening is on page 53 of your agenda, and invite staff. Josh, welcome to the table.
Thank you. Good morning again. Just quick highlights from the paper itself. So it's a survey conducted from August 24 to May 25. 603 respondents from the electoral roll. So the good news, so satisfaction has increased significantly. So from 34% last year to 44% this year. Notable gains in roading, footpaths, cycleways, waste management services. So all the core services are scoring well. Where we're not going so well, perceptions of value for money declined 4%, and also the reputation score remained low at 26%. Within the report, it talks about the 3 drivers of satisfaction. Last year were quality of services, and so that improved by 5% this year, which helped attribute to the overall score increasing. Communications and engagement were identified as crucial for rebuilding public confidence with residents and calling for clearer communication, more public consultation, and greater transparency and accountability. Then there were the affordability questions, which we added mid-year. So that showed 21% found household rates affordable, 18% found rent affordable, and 17% considered the overall cost of living affordable. So significant financial pressures on our residents. And then throughout the year, we've after the first one, I think, we have highlighted a historical comparison with an average from the 15-16 to 18-19, and so when compared, the overall score was 72, and we're still at 44, so still some work to do. Reputation back then was 50, on average was 51%, and as I said before, we're down at 26. And the value for money was 56 in that period, and is at 30 at the moment. But yeah, the core service deliverables is the good news. I do have hot off the press, if you will indulge me as well.
Need some tech support. Is that coming up?
So this just shows us against the 17 other councils which Key Research monitor. So the grey is the average, the orange is the lowest score, and the green is the highest score, and blue being us. So we're slightly above average in the overall satisfaction there. And then the key one for that next one on the deliverables is we're showing we're above average for most of those.
Sorry, can we just go back that one page? So where that overall reputation, why are we not on that?
We're hidden behind, because the lowest is 25 and we're 26, so we're hiding behind there.
Is that you happy to take questions now? Or you still got a little bit more to present?
No, that was the end. I am happy to take questions. I also have Elena from Key Research to answer any technical questions, should there be.
question through you, Mr Chair, just on the previous slide, overall reputation, where is Tauranga City Council hiding? Is it under the minimum or the average?
It was under the lowest score, so the lowest score was 25
Yeah.
and we were 26.
Yeah, can we flick back to that chart just for a second? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, open the floor to questions of staff. So first up, Councillor Roseboom, and then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Probably the one that's concerned me most in the last 12 months is community engagement. And I see we're in the lower half again. Of all the different methods that we've tried in the last 12 months, and I know we've tried a lot, which one has gained us the most amount of community engagement, if at all? Whether it's social media or what? Because we're having trouble connecting with our community, clearly.
I probably wouldn't want to comment on behalf of the Community Relations Department, but I could take that away and ask for you.
Councillor Roseboom, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, I didn't catch. So this, who has done this and how often it has been done, and has it just come in?
I received it while I was up here before, so it's hot off the press. Key Research, who's our research provider, they provide a benchmarking report each year of the 17 different councils that do annual resident surveys. So they have comparable questions so that they can highlight the averages, highs and lows.
So when you send this out, can you send us the last couple of years as well, please?
I think we only have probably the last two, so I can send you out those, yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor, welcome to the morning.
Thank you, Chair. I have been here all the time. Just a question, and I'm going back to the overall reputation, which is the one that we're concerned about. It just seems strange to me that we're above average in just about every other metric, yet that one is low. Isn't that almost a conglomeration of those other measures? And can't quite understand how that one scores so badly.
So we'll look at the reputation as 4 measures combined, which is one is leadership, then trust, then financial management, and the quality of services. So while we're looking at the core services and they're performing well, where the council is underperforming on that leadership and trust and financial management. So financial management, it's really tight with the value for money, and like Josh mentioned, as the priorities and what are the lowest measures across that survey for the residents, so that value for money and financial management, they're tied together and they come through. The trust and leadership, that's very tight together with the consultation and engagement, and as other councillor has mentioned, that's the measure where Tauranga City Council is way below average as well. So that's the reason why reputation is still in the bottom, while core services continue to performing very well.
So I remember when leadership is referred to, is that governance or organisational or
So
both?
governance in the questionnaire, it's where the leadership team, the mayor, the councillors, where they do their work and business in the best interest of the community.
Councillor Baker, you've spoken. Councillor Kurak, and then Councillor Crowther, then Councillor Morris.
Given that TCC would be the only one Key Research uses the affordability questions, metrics for, I think it would be quite helpful if the other councils also introduce that so we can benchmark. So probably, you know, perhaps some support from other elected members to write to ask Key Research to write to or contact the other councils and ask if they would also introduce affordability into their metrics for measurement. Do others support that? It's an additional benchmark.
That's just an action you'd like?
Yeah, for us to do or consider or recommend.
Sorry, just say that again clearly, Councillor.
Just to ask Key Research to contact the other councils that they do undertake this work for and add in affordability into the measure, which we do but others don't. So it's an extra metric to benchmark against.
Councillor Crowther and then Councillor Morris.
Yeah, those, what you just referred to, actually, those points making up the overall reputation, I think, are the critical ones. I want to thank staff and Key Research for putting the net scores. Can we have the comparative net scores for that section as well? Because I think that's so critical. It's obviously our sort of Achilles heel in recent years, and I think to sort of do comparisons and see how we're tracking on that would be quite a useful thing. I did want to comment in terms of, given that it is reputation and it talks about reputation profile, I kind of think that the wording in the page 25 of the actual survey summary on page 136 of our attachment, that's quite problematic. And in a way, I think it sums up why we have a reputation issue, because we've put for the admirers, and this is for someone who's not following this online, there's this quadrant, and we label each of the quadrants. So one of them is admirers who, quote, believe performance could be better, and then we have pragmatists in another quadrant which, quote, rate trust and leadership poorly. But rather than saying the skeptics in this other quadrant do a combination of those things, we sort of label that much more, I would say, pejoratively, do not value or recognise performance and have doubts and lack of trust. And to me, how do we know that? Like, that's just complete speculation. If we want to do, you know, if we're slagging people off in the community, which is 2/3 of our community, 3/4 of Māori in Tauranga, according to this statistically significant survey, are in this box. And we're basically saying that 77% of Māori and 68% overall, you know, have lack of trust and da-da-da. But, you know, to me, we need to just stick to what this actually does show. And once we get into this, you know, you can tell the people's reactions to this is that they kind of think we're missing the point, which is that it could be evidence-based and they are basing it on their analysis of the evidence. It's nothing to do with what we're sort of putting there. I think we're better to stick to those kind of, that kind of languaging around it. And then I had one other question, which is on page, where is it? Sorry. Yeah, I'm just maybe a little bit dense on this, but on page 135, the reputation benchmarks, I just couldn't quite figure out what I'm looking at there on a ward by ward and age and ethnic basis.
So is there, just the first one, I didn't get a question on the first comments. That sounded like just a point you wanted to make.
Well,
is there a clear question here?
Well, I'd like to know if that can be changed to not actually put those, or is that a standardised methodology that's used all around the country?
So yes, this is a standardized methodology. So we use those for reputation questions, and each resident that participated in the survey is assigned an X and a Y, where X is the sum of the trust and leadership, so it's more emotional connection, and then the Y goes like more financial management and quality services, something that is tangible. So we've got the middle, which is exactly 14.5. So if by adding trust and leadership, they are 14.5, where they're going to end up. If they're below, they're going to end up in the lower. If it's above, it's going to end up above. And the same goes for the...
I think the issue I have is the putting do not value performance or do not recognise performance. I think a lot of those people, a lot of those 2/3 of the population would absolutely recognise performance. And I think maybe it's my, through the chair then, my recommendation to key research is to maybe have a think about whether that is the right labelling. I have no problem with skeptics, whatever you want to label it in that way. Maybe they are, I don't know enough about it, but I'd be pretty confident that there'd be a lot of people in there who actually do recognise performance, and it seems a strange thing to put out for the council to be supportive of a survey that's saying that about our people, the vast majority of our people. So that was my point there. So I guess it was a question, but then now it's maybe a follow-up action. If staff could actually discuss that maybe before the next year's survey.
Would that be a request of the
Yes.
survey company officially that they
that
change the way
would
they...
be great, in my view, because to me it's a significant issue there.
Okay, well, we can note
the
that,
way
but
that's-
I think we should keep moving.
Yep, and so my other question was just on that other page, page before, what exactly is that showing? Because I couldn't quite decode
So the
it.
reputation benchmark is designed just to have a more granular look, when sometimes we won't see the very big discrepancy between some of the demographics. So we rescale that measure. So instead of looking at the percentages and 1 to 10, so that measure is rescaled from -50 to 150.
So if you pick one of those, say 65 plus, 2024 36, I presume the green is this year, is it? And that's 37. So we're saying that's just gone up a little.
A little
bit.
bit. So yes, and on that size of the sample, like we can say, it's gone up 1
Whereas
point.
Māori, it's gone down significantly.
Yes. And sometimes,
really all
like
I'm
on
learning.
the 7 to 10, sometimes it's very hard to see, but when you rescale it, you can actually see the difference, the year on year, much better.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crowther. I think there were some questions in there. Councillor Morris.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and good morning to you as well. Regarding point 5 of the report, which is on page 53 of our agenda and talks about the statistically robust sample of 603 residents, is that's 603 residents per wave, isn't it? Or is that 603 over the 4 waves? I'm assuming it's...
It's over the 4 waves, so it's about 150 each wave.
Okay, so that's for the entire city, 603 is our sample. Okay. Second question relates to the hot off the press information that we just received. Can we have a full list of where we rank with those other councils that Key Research survey circulated to us at the earliest opportunity?
Now, this is a preliminary benchmarking report, so
Right.
it's a preliminary.
Okay.
So that only shows 2 slides with the overall measures and the core services. So the full benchmarking report will be available at the end of September.
Oh, thank you. And as soon as that's available,
We could bring that back with wave 1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Councillor Baker.
A couple of questions, just quickly. Wanted to know how many pies Rod paid you to get Te Papa explicitly included in the report there on point 13. No, but seriously, point 12, we've just got a minor error there. It says perceptions of value for money declined from 34% in 2034-34. Is that just meant to be 24-25?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry.
Well, look, thanks for giving me another bite of the apple. I appreciate it. And Councillor Rolliston, if you could bring those apples in next time, that would be much appreciated as well. Just in regard to the survey number, and far be it for me around this table to offer extra business, but I'm thinking in terms of the 603, that seems like a low number for a city our size. I've done polling before in other jurisdictions, not in Tauranga, but my sample size was 1,000 to get to a statistically significant number there. The question I have is, what is the increase in costs to move to a greater sample, and what size of sample would you recommend?
So at the moment, Tauranga City Council are one of the largest samples. So yes, generally speaking, on the Tauranga City population, even 400 would be a significant sample. Well, when you're looking at the margin of error and how it will decline with the increase of sample, so we would see no margin of error decline between 600 and 800. It will be in points. Going up to 1,000, it might decline half a point, but you're still going to be within almost the same margin of error. Now, if you take the likes of the Vital Update, where we're looking at thousands and thousands and thousands, that's the biggest difference. And then you can go as low as 1%, like 1%, plus minus 1%, as the margin of error on that. But going between 600 and 1,000, there would be barely any difference.
Councillor Curry, you've already had one speak. I'm conscious of time. I'll give you one question and we'll finish.
So kind, Mr. Chair. So just on the numbers, the sample numbers, so proportionally we would be similar to all the other councils that Key Research engage. Sorry.
Yes, so the only larger one we are currently surveying, so at the moment we're doing 24 councils in total, and the next year there will be 22 taking part in this benchmarking. So out of those, we've got only one council who is doing more than 600, which is at 750 last year. That was Kaipara District Council. All the others, the district and the city councils, are staying with the sample of between 400 and 500.
Thank you. I'll close questions there, and thank you very much, staff. And I'll now ask for a mover and a seconder of the motion. Councillor Taylor, mover, and seconded is Councillor Morris. Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Lots to unpack in there, and some quite interesting comparisons compared to the last one we looked at. As I say, I do sort of look at the whole package, and I think we have improved in a lot of areas. It is concerning the one we are really trying to hit the most, which is value for money, hasn't really moved in the right direction. So something for us to look forward to, I think, going forward.
And Councillor Morris, would you like to speak now, or yes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we need to consider carefully when those September results come through with the other councils. I think there's some learnings for us in there. I think that may generate a conversation around an in-depth study of what the higher outliers are doing, particularly in terms of image, reputation, consultation. So I think there are possibly some learnings for us there and a piece of work for us there. In terms of down at the ward level, if we're looking at a 600-odd sample across the entire city and we've got 8 wards, I think you could see quite a lot of volatility there if you're talking to less than 100 people. So I'd just reflect on that a little bit.
Good comment. Any Mayor Mahe?
Yeah, I think overall, this is quite a positive survey. Obviously, there's some real challenges in some of those priority areas. I think we've got to look at this and what this is, and it is what it is. But it's a pretty good basis for us to be able to, I guess, measure ourselves. And I guess the challenge to this council is, look, we've got to dig into this. Look at some of the comments, look at some of the areas for improvement, and try to change what we're doing, because clearly there's some messaging here that although we're going in a direction, it's not always working. So that we do need to continue to try some new things, and as part of that, hopefully we'll see some changes in some of those key areas that we're trying to target. But you know, we've got to tell our story better. We've got to get out there and you know, be involved in the community if we do want to improve. But I think we've got to take this as what it is. It's a good measure for us, and the challenge going forward is trying to improve those metrics that are important while maintaining some of those high levels in some of the other areas that we've got. So it's a yeah, I think it's a really useful piece of information that we can use going forward to try to get better.
Thank you, Mayor. And Councillor Kurak? I haven't. Oh, Councillor Baker, are you? Yep.
Just quickly, supporting the kōrero of the Mayor. Sorry, the hot off the press metrics thing that you guys provided was great. Looking forward to seeing more of that as time goes on. But I guess some of my key messaging in line with what's already been said is that globally, but also locally, we're in a real war of information, and unless this council table, are being a lot more proactive with what we say, what we share, and how we engage with our community, then the dominant narratives that are shared about us in this council aren't going to change. I think about the measures that underpin overall reputation, and from my point of view, they're things entirely within this table's control, or are a reflection of us and our immediate performance. And so we have got to be better, and we've got to mobilise the organisation better to own the narrative that we want Tauranga to be talking about. Because at the moment we're silent on a number of fronts that have a lot of influence over the general public.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Kurak.
Thank you. I think the alignment of the two bottom ranking, the affordability and the reputation, to me speaks a lot to the reasons why our reputation follows the affordability. A lot of people in this community are under significant financial pressures, cost of living, etc. And so they measure us by the rate increases, for example. When they get their bills and it's increasing 10% every year when their incomes aren't anywhere near that, and they're already under constraint, and it's, you know, it's every day though a lot of people are faced with that financial pressure. So when it comes to a survey, someone, you know, phoning you and asking a number of questions, that's always in the back end of their mind. So until we can start limiting some of that burden that we're imposing on our community, we'll continue to have a bad reputation score. But it's not going to be easy looking at the 10-year plan. So that's my opinion. I'm not sure whether that's correct or not, but I think in this environment, compared to when I last was on council, it's quite different. That the cost of living crisis wasn't there. And so, to me, that's the key difference. We were engaging with our community, and like we are now, I think we're not falling short in any of those engagements with our community. But I think it's basically the underlying issue that drives our low reputation score. And boy, it's not going to be easy, but we need to keep working on those budgets.
Thank you, Councillor Kirk. I will quickly note, though, not to debate it too hard, but the reputation, the affordability is something that we've introduced very recently. Reputation has been sitting where it is for a while, so I understand your thoughts, but yeah, it's also, yeah. So but the reputation was there. We'll just go Deputy Mayor, and then hopefully we can go to the vote. We're running out of.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to foreshadow an amendment. I think we can receive the report, and interestingly in the minutes none of our conversations and commitment actually gets reported. So I would like to foreshadow that we have a B to support Council's commitment to deliver better for the people of Tauranga, that an action schedule is drafted, implemented and measured to move the dial on these measures.
Sounds like you got support there, so Are we happy to receive that amended B? Yes, okay. So we can just say that again quickly, please.
To
Deputy
support
Mayor?
councils with a capital C commitment to deliver better for the people of Tauranga. That an action schedule be drafted, implemented and measured. And obviously to move the dial, is that formal enough? To move the dial
do we
on
need
those
that?
measures.
Can we just go
Oh,
with
yeah.
the initial part? I think
Correct,
that
yes.
keeps it businesses.
Yeah, good idea. I think we should take the action on ourselves. As the Mayor said, this is great information and let's actually make sure we do something about it.
So that B becomes part of the
If
recommendation.
Councillor
Thank you very
Taylor
much,
and
Deputy Mayor, for
Morris
that.
are happy.
Councillor Crowther?
Oh, sorry.
Informational way, there's always helpful information. I think it does need teasing apart. And there are things here like I notice in some of those scores that Otumotai, Welcome Bay, for instance, score council the lowest. But Otumotai had quite a big improvement in regards to reputation. And now it scores the same as Bethlehem Ward, actually. But then I go, how relevant is that? Because is it just within margins of error, as Councillor Morris said? And I think we need to make sure we don't read too much into it, and maybe a little bit of advice around that statistical analysis would be helpful when I think about it now. Probably a little bit behind, a few minutes too late for this meeting, but I think that would be helpful to contextualise what do we need to focus in, and I still think we need to focus in on the reputation, the leadership. To me, that is where we have a disconnect. I don't think there's a quantitative lack of engagement with our community. I think there is a qualitative lack, and I think we need to recognise that fully and understand what our community wants in terms of engagement. And I will note that it's older people who 65 plus who score council highest, and 35 to 64-year-olds and Māori who score us lowest. So I hope that puts to bed this whole long-standing thing, which I've heard many times, that there are grumpy, stale, pale males who are going around and moaning about the council. That has not been my experience at all. It is not statistically the experience in previous surveys from what I've seen, and it isn't in this one. So I just hope we stop the ageist stuff, and we just go, there are people out there who, for whatever reason, and I think when you look at what some of those older people who do complain are complaining about, they're not complaining about for themselves. They have kids who are in this 35 to 64-year-old age group who are struggling, as Councillor Correct says, to pay their bills, and that will be a big part of it. And when they see money being spent on things that the whole of the city by majority hasn't supported, that causes a big driver for our reputation. So we have to get on top of debt, we have to get on top of the projects, and then we have to engage well. If we do that, we can turn this around, but it's going to be a big effort.
Thank you, Councillor Crowther. I will just before we put this to the vote, I just need to get clarification on B from the Deputy Mayor. This is something that will be driven by us as council. It's not on staff. So can we please add that, everyone? By elected members. Well, Councillor Taylor.
Just very quickly, Chair, I'm pretty encouraged by the passion that the members have shown for the survey. I think there's some really good information here, and it does dictate how we should go forward. So also acknowledge the Deputy Mayor's addition. I think that's going to be good, that it puts the onus on us to actually do some actions. So good, thank you.
Thank you. The only other comment I'll add to that is it does show the willingness around this table to be accountable, and we are definitely trying hard to consult and communicate with the community. Our staff, the council itself, has been very positive and proactive as well. So this is a good step. Thank you for the addition of B. So with no further debate, I will now put this to the vote. I will read it, that the City Delivery Committee, A, receives the report Annual Resident Survey Report 2024-25, and B, to support Council's commitment to deliver better to the people of Tauranga, that an action schedule be drafted and implemented by elected members.
And measured. Drafted, comma, implemented, comma, and measured. That's pretty important.
Okay, I'm assuming there's no objections to this late change. That was the original, sorry, apologies, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so I won't reread that. Everyone can see what's in front of them. All those in favour? Those against? That is also carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We are now at 11:26. Mayor, are you on a very tight... Okay, we will move quickly now on to the next item on the agenda, which is the capital program performance 9.9, and it is on page 95 of the agenda. Welcome, James.
Good morning and through the chair. I'll pretty much take the report as read, just getting in front of some of the questions I heard sitting in the back around risk of the capital program and delays. It's probably something we could do a lot better in terms of reporting up, so we'll look at including a bit of narrative going forward around that. A lot of it's lead and lag stuff, so like the resident survey, LTP performance measures, those are quite lag effects of the capital program in time, but certainly from a risk point of view where levels of service are severely impacted with delays of projects or operational impacts on the organisation, we can certainly bring that forward in terms of future reporting.
Thank you. Questions? Usual suspect, the Mayor.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions here. You know, firstly, we've got quite an under delivery, and again, it would be good to understand, you know, the reason for that, and trying to get a gauge as to how that under delivery is, and for example, under delivery can be fantastic if that is because we're delivering it less than budget or we're not using the contingencies, and that's what's making up that gap. So I think having a sort of a breakdown as that, but if we're just under delivering because we're not actually being able to do what we've said we're going to do, that's not a good thing. So I think it's very unclear, this report, as to how that is broken down. There's just a couple of things I'd like to see, some evidence or a report around the panels and how that delivers value for money, because that is one of the feedback items that I hear. I'd also like to see the Tarakura Drive procurement, just have that reported back to us around how that process went and how that was considered, and yeah, so these are actions that I'd just like to see as part of that, and then yeah, I guess the question is, can you give us a little bit, like obviously if we come back and we get a bit more of a breakdown, but you know, what were the main reasons for the under delivery of this program? And two, I'm just interested to understand, like, you know, if we under deliver by 100 million, then that generally, I'm guessing, gets carried forward. So is that out? Do we benchmark that, and do we actually say, look, we had that 100 million carried forward, we delivered 80 million of that, or we delivered 100 million of that? Because I don't see anything around that in the reports.
Okay, I'll try and answer all those questions. So just for context, this report is focused on just the first month of the financial year, so we haven't reflected on the performance to the end of June, so just for context. Going backwards from a carry forward point of view, so that's just being worked on now. In terms of measuring what was carried forward and then what was spent of carried forward, we've never really done that in the past, but if that's something you want to have going forward, we can certainly make sure we do that. You have to remind me of the other questions, sorry.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it, but just a bit more of a breakdown as to, why we're, that difference between under budget and...
Yeah, well, there's a variety of reasons. The project teams are probably better placed in their areas to respond to that. For example, in the transport stuff, in the transport place, that might be due to funding, NZTA business case development, how that progresses. In the other teams, yeah, they're probably better placed in terms of giving a bit more detail around why those projects have been delayed. I guess from a general point of view, the run rate over time that we've had at council has kind of stepped up quite a lot. We've made assumptions around basically a 20% or 25% uplift year on year and being able to deliver. Sometimes it's probably a bit optimistic. And in the past, we've actually used some mechanisms to drive that optimism down a bit. The moment to date, or to the end of July, we're running at about 35 mil, and if we play that forward, that's going to probably be an issue later in the year, but we're still early in the year. We want to see how our projects eventuate over the next quarter. I guess it's just a range of factors, delays, decision making internally and through design processes. The tender process, the timing as well. So if we don't get tenders out to the market before Christmas, it has quite a massive, quite a significant impact because of the delay that you're coming back after Christmas, you're getting them out, and then the rest of the financial year only kind of counts for 2 or 3 months. So that's quite a crucial part, is tendering and getting things out to market.
Yeah, and I just think we need some more information around actually seeing some of the reasons. We get a report saying we're doing this, but it really doesn't have the context. And, just when we look at the major projects report, we're talking Papamoa East Interchange, LTP budget of 79.3 million, current estimate for completion 65 to 74 million. So the fact we're going to deliver at least 5 million under our capital program, that's a really good thing. And I'd prefer to deliver it 10 million under, but let's have some context of that. Say, we actually delivered 79 million of our capital budget, but it only cost us that. So we actually have some context, around that and say, okay, well, that's great that we actually delivered under the budget, whereas we didn't build the Papamoa East Interchange. That's a bad thing. So it's really hard, I guess, just looking at the information as to getting some of that context and reasoning of where we're at.
I'll make a note of that and make sure it's captured next time.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions? Councillor Baker, and then Councillor Crowther, and then Councillor Morris.
Well, anyway, I'm looking at point 5 on the report there, just wanting a bit for page 95. A bit more information on that. How many of the, so we had 28 procurement activities totaling 16 mil were undertaken. How many of those 28 contracts, is that what we would say, were provided to local suppliers versus outside of Tauranga in particular? And then when it says 11 million allocated through open competition, means that there's 5 million that wasn't, if I'm reading that properly. Is that just an overhang yet to be signed up, or is there like a private tendering process? And then my third question, if hopefully you can remember all the answers to them, is are we developing a strategy that prioritises local procurement?
So the first question, I'm only aware of one out-of-town contract that was let. The majority of them are local businesses or offices based in Tauranga. Second question around the non-open procurement. So that's either through the panel arrangements, some may be direct if it's of low value, and some might be closed, so we select our suppliers that we want to engage with and then go through a procurement process. Our procurement strategy, so we do have a procurement strategy that does include a drive towards local business.
question on page 103 on waters projects. Firstly, is the asterisk meant to be the end of July 2025? In other words, are we talking just LTP period, and that is a retrospective historical multi-spend of actuals to date?
Yes, that'll be total cost.
So that's to 2025, not, or to the end?
Oh, sorry, yeah, that'll be 20.
Rather than 20, like I was just trying to make sure. Okay, so in that context, so I guess what I'm struggling with is just the big picture, like all the little components seem fine apart from the balance, and I'm just looking at the totals and trying to understand if this is just LTP, isn't it? Not outside. So in the LTP it was 2.054 million total. In May of this year, or early June or something, it was 2.062 million, and now we're at 2.85 million. And I'm missing sort of, I've got the small pictures fine, but the big picture is just a bit mind-boggling to me. Like, why are we so far different? I mean, it's so big, I presume there might be someone in the room who, through the acting chief executive, who might be able to give a little bit of a...
The nearest person in the room's shaking her head like this in the corner saying, we need to have a look at it, unless, Susan, you have a view?
Because it's sort of $750 million.
The total project budget that's noted in those columns, so that includes all the historic spend for those as well. So when you look at the actuals to date in that first grey column of 886 million, that's included in the totals. So it's all future-looking budgets. So where there is any future-looking budgets, we've captured all the historic spend against that as well.
So just, if that's the case then, I guess it'd be really helpful to tease that out more, because I did wonder if that's what it meant. So in that case, we're saying there are 821 million has been spent on projects that will lead to 2.6 billion of spend in the LTP. So even though some of those might just be the last few months of the LTP period, that spend is included. Because I think it'd be helpful to have sort of like an LTP
the budget is
budget
distinct
plus,
from
yeah,
the budget plus actuals. That's,
yeah,
we can
then
add
you
an
can
extra
sort of
column.
see, yeah,
We'll try
it
to
just sort of
squeeze it.
seemed, yeah, and I wasn't sure if those added up to the, but I presume that's all it is. It's just a different, yeah, a few details.
That's an action you want for you going forward,
Yeah,
Councillor?
that'd be very helpful, I think.
Okay.
So, just
And
so
any
you're
more-
reconciling all the other ones as well back to the $5 billion. That's
Yeah, because that's all we've got to go on until we formally approve an update to that. And I think that's what we've got to measure against, because otherwise we sort of, that balance of waters, which is already so big at 1.8 or 1.7 something, that just becomes so enormous that we have no visibility. Whereas all those other projects are so tiny in comparison that you sort of go, well, we're missing the whole big picture here in terms of the overall LTP, and are we heading in a direction? I mean, I know it's a bit of a moot point because we'll be losing waters, but while we're running the show, we might as well have that visibility.
Councillor Crowther, can you just clarify that action point, please, and then next question?
So to have a column there that is actuals today, and then another column that's the LTP only component of that, and then we can do the updated, so we can figure out how much, because presumably actuals don't change, it's only the LTP component that changes, so then we can just always add on, and in the final column you could add the two together if you want. But I can do the adding, I just would like to see the numbers.
Thank you. Any further questions, or can we move on?
Yeah, I've got one more. The Wairaki bus hub on page 109, an inline interim solution has been proposed for the boulevard. Now, this is concerning for me to read, because this is our fourth bus hub project that we're kind of going, oh, we won't do the real thing. So I guess one of my questions is, is that something which our partners are bought into? And then the second question is, are we actually future-proofing this in terms of not just the land to develop the real thing, but to the roading connections and other infrastructure, off-road infrastructure. Is that all future-proof so we could have a state-of-the-art, because this was meant to be one of the whiz-bang bus hubs about a year and a half ago, and now it's looking like just another few bus stops.
So you understand that question?
Yep, through you, Mr. Chair, I do. I'll go backwards to go forwards. So in terms of your question, are we future-proofing? The short answer is yes. But the full scope for a Wairakei bus hub, much like Tariko and the other bus hubs that are in and around the city, have been pushed out in time. So that's a reaction to the government policy statement on transport, which means that funding and those business cases are no longer considered fundable, and then therefore our investment in 50% of those business cases is also not money that I think in a value for money sort of sense we should be spending now. I think to give yourself some, allay your concerns, I guess, is the transport system plan is being reviewed currently. So the way that plan anticipated providing public transport infrastructure was in the short horizon, the here and now. It's now going to be sort of reset, and that process will include taking it in front of our partners, with our partners, in front of the Joint Transport Committee and in this council as well, so that you get a sense of what was the actual impact of these things and why did it get pushed out in time. Is the network future-proofed? Yes. We're allowing for space, I think, is the primary way that we do that, given that in 7 years' time, 8 years' time, what is whiz-bang and finangled might be different at that point, so we can allow for that. And in terms of that comment around the boulevard, we're providing inline bus stops, which was our original preference around bus stops in the Wairakei area, and we had to negotiate with developers on what they think is important to provide for their customers out there. So it's a bit of that swings and roundabouts in terms of what actually gets designed, but we're very comfortable that actually that's the right PT solution for the now, given that we've got a plan for the future, and GPSs might change, and if that's the case, then I think we'll have a much stronger PT program. But you do see that right across all the PT infrastructure in the transport program. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yeah, excellent. And Councillor Morris, and then Jackie.
Thank you. I'm referring to page 116 of our agenda, the Digital Services Project Challenges, and there is a table there. The second row refers to risk appetite, and it says the level of risk appetite is not yet determined. In the meantime, it is assumed that the risk appetite is effectively set at 0, which is not practical or applicable to technology given the type of organisation we are and the level of funding that can be applied. That leads me to two questions. One is, when is a paper coming to council to set our risk appetite? First question. And second question is, as it relates to digital services, are we, as a council, spending money on projects in that space with a zero risk appetite, or is that just a general observation? Because I think that's important.
First question, when is it coming? If it's not coming to audit and risk, it'll be coming to council in the next 90 days. So in terms of, I think it's more the general, I think it's more the latter. I think the staff may have written just broad observations there that we can go back and look at whether the sentence perhaps should have been more specific and perhaps a little bit more thought through.
Tangata Whenua Rep, Rolleston Steed.
Thank you, Chairman Schuler. You can tell that I've been a bit trigger shy this morning for obvious reasons, but I'm sure you've missed my voice. I can confirm that my husband has not. But my question is around the main Wairakei pump station. I note in there on one of the project updates that there has been an emerging risk relating to Tangata Whenua Party's view on the resource consent process, and that's been escalated to senior leadership and the consenting authority, but there's no clarification as to what the actual issue is. So I was just interested in understanding what were the objections or the issues, and can they be mitigated, and if so, how?
What page is that there, sorry?
Apologies, 104
Thank
of
you.
our agenda.
Kia ora tātou. Yes, the question is around whether or not the consent application should be notified or non-notified. All the advice we are getting from our planning team and the people that have put the application together is that it's a minor matter and can go forward non-notified. We consulted obviously widely with Ngāpuhi especially, and they would like it to have limited notification. If we can go limited notification, it will delay the project somewhat, and it also opens it up to a whole lot of other people wanting to submit on it and delay the project, or has the potential to delay the project. We don't believe it needs to be notified from a technical perspective, and that is where we're sitting at the moment. Do we notify or do we not notify?
Yeah, I think that seems like a simple potential offset around the notification process. I would have just assumed then if it's non-notified or not publicly notified, that there'd still be a relevant amount of engagement with tangata whenua given its proximity to those urban growth areas of Wairākei and Te Tumu. So I mean, it's something I guess I can follow up through Te Rangapu just to get more clarification around that, but I would assume the notification has simply got to do with engagement.
Thank you. Yep. And obviously there will be ongoing engagement throughout the process of the project.
Councillor Baker.
Sorry, last question from me before lunch. Page 96.12. There are 32 projects currently on hold, the majority of which are transport projects no longer supported with funding from NZTA as a result of a change in central government direction. 32 projects sounds like a lot, most likely is a lot of money. My question is, what's our strategy or plan of attack to be more sustainable and less dependent while we continue to grow?
I'll take one of those if you like, before as Mike makes his way to the chair. So in City Waters we had 2 projects on hold. One of them was the Mangatawa Marae having an on-site effluent treatment system put in place. There was a bit of a dispute or debate around what the Marae Committee wanted. They've resolved that. We have now advanced that project and it is in the ground, and we're currently paying the final invoice. So while it is still showing on hold on our books, we have completed that project.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I think it's fair to say that the transport program was significantly different after the GPS, and it forced a lot of changes in terms of the way that we could do things. So the total value of those projects is in and around about $26 million. 3 business cases that haven't progressed due to misalignment with the GPS, including Wairākei bus hubs and whatnot. Was a raft of design work on safety projects that were, in order to maintain a momentum in your program for delivery, you can start your design works early, and some of those are now on hold. They're safety projects and they need to be reprioritised in our program. Annual plans aren't necessarily the best place to do that, and so we're looking to bring to council what our reprioritised program looks like for the next NLTP and the annual plan coming up. So we're going to go on a bit of a journey with this, and this is to really address those projects that are on hold and any other aspirations council may have to deliver on its program with regard to transport. Those projects will be some of the things that we'll get you to consider at the time. Some of these projects are also around our developer-led projects. and our growth, and they are put on hold at various times because developments either are waxing or waning in terms of the infrastructure they need to supply for the houses. If there's no one buying houses, then there's no point in spending money on the infrastructure. So that part of the program can go on hold and off again. So it's quite dynamic in that space. So happy to provide you with a bit more detail in terms of actual lists and projects, but things like the Girvan Road crossing, the Esplanade, the business cases around Area A, which are just no longer flavour of the month for the GPS, and they sit there at the moment in the plan, but at the moment they can't be progressed.
Yeah, no, hear that, and that's a good answer. It'll be good to get some more detail, and looking forward to the future discussions we will have. Probably just thinking about, or from where I'm coming from in relation to the question, is it about us or some part of the organisation having a bit more political forecasting is probably the way I would describe it, so that way we're still not so... We say yes because the government's keen at one point, the government changes and then they're not, and then there's potentially sunk costs or pivoting or delays, etc. Is there a way that, do we need to politically forecast for alternative, what's the Avengers thing? Multi-universal scenarios just in case this happens so we can avoid it?
I've got two infrastructure colleagues who are desperate to put their hands up, but I'm going to go first. So just in terms of transport, this is a very typical transport problem, and our governments do often change tack on what they prioritise. So as far as a transport person in this sector goes, you get quite resilient to it. However, what the work that I just mentioned earlier around TSP, the Transport System Plan is this region's sub-regional view of what's important to this region. It's the transport response to the strategic problems that this region faces, growth, where the levels of service in the city are dropping around safety or congestion, all those good transport issues. And so that work highlights and outlines, well, what are the long list of projects that we'd like to do in order to address some of these problems. And then, so that's this council's view along with our partners around what should be done. So strategically, that's the plan. And that plan hasn't changed. Smart growth is still smart growth, UFTI is still UFTI, and the land use pattern is still predicted to be what it will be, and the transport response to that. What becomes the really crunchy bit is where does the money come from? And that process will take you through this next annual plan and into the next NLTP, which is the National Land Transport Program, and then also our LTP to give you the chance to help reprioritise all that work, and those projects will come off hold in that. So in a sense, yes, we can help you with that, and we can make sure that you get an opportunity to help adjust the dials on what's in those plans and programs. Hopefully I've answered that, Nick, okay?
Thank you.
Maybe I can just add that we have in the report under transport challenges, we have covered some of these items. So if you want in your own time just to digest that a little bit more, then that's an opportunity. I think it's also worth pointing out that there are improvement opportunities in how we do business cases, and sometimes it's as subtle as the language that we use. So under the old government, we talked about mode shift, for instance. There's a GPS and it's assessed by other people whether it's fundable or not. Had we called it meeting demand of intensification, it might actually have been approved. So there is a language thing here as well, in that we can probably be better at neutralising how we put our business cases together. But this is a learning not just for us, but actually right across the country, because the nuances actually in reality between different government policy statements are massive in some respects, but in others they are nuances, and actually more clever language from us when we put those together can give us better traction. So just in terms of political savvy there in our responses.
That's a great point, Nick. Sorry, James?
I was just going to add, so next week you've got a workshop planned around prioritisation, annual plan, but predominantly actually looking ahead at the long-term plan. Part of that conversation is framing up the funding envelopes and working within those. And actually the business case decision is what decisions you make around a 10-year program, and then what risks you're willing to take in terms of the funding or assumptions around funding. So that's really important. I think the other one with the on-hold projects and what Mike's talked about is, and talking about being behind in the program is, you have to take a little bit of risk in getting design movement forward, and there may be a write-off element of that. If you operate in a kind of hand-to-mouth type situation, that does cause delays in the programs. You can't get ahead and get a pipeline of work planned, and that also helps with the whole value for money kind of drive and being able to have good conversations with contractors and the supply chain around what's coming out to the market. So everything's, I guess, intertwined, and we'll probably start talking a little bit more about that at the workshop next week.
Thanks, James. Look, good round of questions. I'm going to wrap the questions up now. So I'd like to call for a... Will it be a question?
Yes, a genuine
Thank you.
question. I'm wanting to find, you better come back, Mike. I'm really a bit hot on this issue of the city centre public transport hub, and there's a bit of a red rag to a bull when it put no new issues emerging. I've been dealing with a number of people in our community who are really upset about that hub, and I have raised it before in Transport Committee, but it seems it needs to be in this council. And I guess what concerns me is that if you ask, I have done due diligence on this, and I have asked transport quote-unquote experts, and if you ask what is the main purpose of a bus shelter, the normal answer you get is to protect people from the elements or to stop people getting wet when it's raining. That hub does not deliver that. So we've had people who do not come to the CBD on wet days because of that very reason. We have people who do not go out to meetings because of that reason. We have people who are mobility impaired who are complaining about this from places around the city. So I guess what I'm looking at is, can this be put into, firstly, when you say no new issues, can I add a new issue then if it's a new one? And secondly, before we close it out and everything, can we actually put that into the discussion, as I've requested before, for the capital program next week, did you say? So that we actually have the option for a democratic decision around whether we want to open that up, because I don't believe it's fit for purpose. And I think that we need to look at that very closely in terms of whether it's delivering value for people. If it's not doing what it's meant to do, the primary purpose, and it's something we warned about before it happened, and it's literally not doing the fundamental issue that it's meant to do. And you just have to go down there last week.
Just with respect, is there a question, or is there something you could do
no,
through the debate?
I'm wanting to know, can it be in our, because it's getting shunted forward, can it get into our very next discussion on the capital program? I tried to get it in the annual plan. I tried to get it in on the 22nd of July. Can this be addressed explicitly in a democratic decision with a paper if necessary by the next meeting we have about the capital program, public meeting?
So is this a resolution you're after amongst elected members, or are you... I'm not quite sure where the question should be directed.
Yeah, I'm wanting ultimately for us as elected members to decide this.
So then can that be part of our debate, please? It's not a question of staff, Councillor.
Yes, no, it's a question of staff. Can they prepare that to come to us so we can have that discussion? Because I've tried to do it before and be told, no, we haven't got a paper. So I'm wanting to know if the staff can do a paper so we can actually have the discussion.
I think it's for us to ask the staff to produce a paper through a resolution. I think the question, so took a lot of time there, but I think that was more of part of our debate. So thank you, staff, for your time, and I will now ask for a mover and a seconder so we can go into debate, and there, Councillor Crowther may want to speak further. Have a mover? Councillor Taylor moved and seconded Councillor Kurak. I think Nick just would like to have a quick comment.
Yeah, just to go back to that previous discussion, I think it is a directive that we need from around the council table as to whether we want to have another look at the Durham Street bus stops. If we do, that's fine, and we can put together that report. But I think now's the time to make a decision as to whether we do have a relitigation of that or not. So as Councillor Crowther pointed out, that's an elected member's decision to make.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, so Councillor Taylor, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, staff, for the report. Quite comprehensive, and obviously a lot of things that we're dealing with, some of which have been stopped by matters beyond our control. I do pick up on Councillor Crowther's point, and I think we should have an action point just to investigate that. I have personally seen those bus shelters in pretty extreme weather, and they do not keep you dry. So I think he's got a valid point. I'm not quite sure what the right process is, but it's something we should probably add as an action point.
Councillor Currick, you like to speak now? Or? Okay, so I'll move to Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, so I'll put an amendment B that staff prepare a brief report on options for upgrading Durham Street bus hub to improve weather protection.
And it looks like the mover and the seconder are happy with that. We'll just get that up on the, and take it as part of the, oh, there we go.
To improve protection, is that correct? Sorry?
Weather protection.
Weather protection.
Would you like wet weather protection in there?
Sorry, that's just the Durham Street bus shelters. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that, Councillor Crowther. Any further
With a
debate?
plural.
I've just got one question.
Yes.
Oh, just sorry, Durham Street bus shelters, I believe. Is that right? There's more than one? Plural? 6 of them, actually. Right, and now Councillor Roseboom.
Yeah, I've just got one question for the staff in relation to the Waterfront Plaza. It's got tender valuations complete, waiting for council approval. Do you have a date when it's coming to council? The next council meeting?
Not sure. We have the Waterfront Plaza project team here. We'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Any further debate or discussion? Right then, I will read this, that the City Delivery Committee, A, receives the report Capital Program Performance, and B, that staff prepare a brief report. Is that a short report, Councillor Crowther, or is that a long?
Yes, I'm hoping there's a message there. They don't have to do a.
I'm going to start this again now the comedy's over. So you want brief in there? Can we take that out?
If you really need to.
Yeah. So just delete brief. Right. And back to B, that staff prepare a report on options for upgrading the Durham Street bus shelters to improve weather protection. All those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. We will now take a break for lunch. The time is 12:04. We will come back at 12:35, a slightly shortened lunch break. And thank you. Radio, welcome back everyone to the afternoon, and continuing with our agenda. And so the next item on the agenda is 9.2, Tauranga Māori Business Association End of Year Report, and I will be inviting to the table Terina McRae-Hape and Manawa Whākua, but if I just can ask Councillor Rolleston to welcome.
Tēnā koe te tiamana, he mihi poto kia koutou, te rōpū kai whakahaere o Tauranga Māori Business Association. Nō reira, tēnā kōrua, manoa te rina, tēnei te mihi kia kōrua, me tō whānau tō tai mai ki te tautoko tēnei kaupapa. Te nuinga, karekau he tāne kua tai mai, Lloyd mā, hoi anō, ai te kaha o te mana wahine kua tai mai I roto I tēnei whare. Nō reira, nau mai hare mai ki te kaunihira. Kāre he ro te kōrero, he mihi poto ki te mihi. Nau mai, hare mai. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before we pass the rākau on to Timber, I didn't put in formal interest this morning. I have formally previously, but I actually sit on the board of the Tauranga Māori Business Association. So you'll probably just see me go, yay, like that.
Thank you. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Tēnā tātou katoa, kua huhui mai nei tēnei ahiahi mō te kaupapa o te rā. Tēnā koutou ngā mema o te komiti. Tēnā koutou te mana whenua, Ngāti Pūkenga, Ngāti Ranginui, Ngaiterangi. Tēnā koe Hemi mō tō mihi. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Manawa Whākua tōku ingoa. He uri ahau no Ngāti Tūwharetoa ki Taupō, Ngāti Kahungunu ki Here Taunga. Engari, I tipu ahau ki Kawero, ki Rotorua, kei Tauranga Moana mātou ko tōku whānau e noho ana I Naenei. So my name is Manawa Whākua. I'm the chairperson of the Tauranga Māori Business Association. I'm also a director of a local law firm, Harris Tate Lawyers. So I'm here largely to introduce our amazing kai tautoko, Terina McRae-Hape, who's going to speak mostly to the komiti today, and also just acknowledge the members of the komiti, mana whenua, and also our whānau who have come to tautoko us today as well. We've got some of our members, and we've also got some of our supporters, and we're joined by one of the other members of our board too, Karen Rawlinson. So I'm just going to hand over the floor to Terina and potentially help with any questions that the committee might have. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. Kia ora, ko Terina McRae-Hape tōku ingoa, he uru ahau no Ngāti Kahungunu me Ngāti Hine Uru, kei makatu mātou ko tōku whānau e noho ana, nō reira me mihi atu ki te haukainga o te whenua tapu nei o Makatu. Kia ora, I am Terina McRae-Hape. I am the ko-tautoko for Tauranga Māori Business Association, and I am here to present to you our presentation of Year 1 for our LTP with TCC and Timber. So Timber is obviously the shorter version of Tauranga Māori Business Association. So the first year of the LTP between Timber and TCC has nothing been short of transformative for the Māori business network right here in Tauranga Moana. As we reflect on the last 12 months, it's clear that our collaborative efforts, shared visions and willingness to adapt have laid a foundation for the future. Our key achievements, top 3, strengthening our relationships. The LTP partnership fosters closer ties between Timber, TCC and the wider Māori business community. Regular hui, wānanga and networking kaupapa provided opportunities for open dialogue and mutual learning. Capacity building. Together we delivered a series of workshops, events tailored to the needs of Māori entrepreneurs, covering multiple areas from digital marketing, business planning and business foundations. These initiatives have empowered members with connections, practical skills and confidence. Increased visibility. The Māori Business Network's profile grew through coordinated marketing campaigns, social media presence and showcasing local success stories in our monthly pānui. This not only celebrated our achievements but also inspired others to join and contribute. Changes and pivots. No partnership is without its challenges, and the LTP was no exception. Early on, we realised the importance of flexibility and the ability to pivot in response to feedback and changing circumstances. Adapting to our members' needs, initial plans for events were reshaped into more focused workshops and networking kaupapa. This allowed for deeper engagement and a more personal approach to supporting our whānau in business. Digital transformation. Carefully thought our marketing campaigns, curated and accelerated our online platforms, enabling us to reach members across a wider geographic areas and ensure continuity of support. Enhancing communication and collaboration, using digital platforms like electronic pānui, social media and LinkedIn to keep all our members informed about decisions and opportunities, with ongoing networking with other entities, organisations to turn potential opportunities into available opportunities for our members. Looking ahead, the first year of the LTP partnership has proven the power of collaboration and adaptability. As we move into year 2, we're committed to building on these achievements, expanding our support, deepening our relationships and ensuring the Māori Business Network remains a vibrant, inclusive space for all. Together, Timber and TCC have shown that meaningful change is possible when we walk the path as one. We look forward to another year of growth, learning and shared success. As we stepped into the second year, a sense of excitement enveloped the Tauranga Māori Business Association, our vibrant Pākehī members, whānau and hapori. The foundation laid through the LTP with Tauranga City Council in 2024 has set the stage for a transformative year, filled with opportunities and new initiatives to uplift and engage our community. The first year of the LTP partnership was marked by significant progress and positive change for the Māori Business Network. Our membership growth, as of June 2024, our network included 85 members by December. This number had grown to 93. Notably, 21.33% of our members are mana whenua Pākehī Māori, affiliated with Ngāti Ranginui, Ngāti Rangi and Ngāti Pūkenga. This growth reflects our commitment to inclusivity and deepening our iwi connections. At the close of year 1, our membership has fluctuated between 85 and 95 members, with an increase of mana whenua of Pākehī Māori of 25.2%. I do like to add we're now at 100 members and we have hit the 30% mark for our mana whenua Pākehī. Successful events from May 2024 to June 2025, we delivered 11 impactful events. Te Hekinga, Meet the Candidates, Pākehī Māori and Social Media, Ko Tui Tui Networking Event, Timber Tourism Bay of Plenty Collaboration, End of Year Celebration and Networking Event, which each event fostered connection, learning and celebration within our hapori, creating valuable opportunities for members at all stages of their business journey. Sunset Solutions, transforming challenges into opportunity as day turns to night, co-hosted with MSD. Category Māori and Pacifica Business Excellent Awards, Farmers Auto Village Tauranga Business Awards, Timber AGM and Shaping Tomorrow Together Networking Event, Empowering Our Community, Te Awa Nui Candidates, Te Rohia Ki Tua, co-hosted with Ringahora Workforce Development Council. We've also established a Timber Uplifter Women's Breakfast Group, which is held monthly and has completed 7 gatherings as of June. Celebrating success and excellence. The year concluded with 3 Timber members, 2 Maira Energy, Confidential Document Destruction and Barber Shack named as finalists at the Farmer Auto Village Tauranga Business Awards. Their achievements are a testament to the collective strength and potential of our network. Pivot and progress in embracing change. The past year also required adaptability. We listened to our members' feedback, adjusted event formats and responded to emerging needs. Our pivots included shifting from large-scale gatherings to more focused interactive workshops and networking events, increasing emphasis on collaboration both within the Māori Business Network, with the external partners like Toi Kairawa and Tourism Bay of Plenty. Enhancing communication and decision-making processes to ensure every voice is heard. Service offerings of support for Pākehā Māori within the ecosystem of whānake. With referrals, we have been paving new opportunities for support through other organisations and businesses, as the needs are still there, if not more so now than ever before. For FY 2026, a year of opportunity and engagement. Looking ahead, FY 26 promises to be transformative for timber and our Māori business network. Our primary focus will be on events, networking, educational initiatives, collaborations and partnerships and workshops, all designed to strengthen our connections and empower our members. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, these kaupapa will serve as a platform to share ideas, experiences and resources. We understand the power of collaboration this year. Our events will spark new partnerships and ventures, and we encourage all members to participate actively and bring fresh ideas to the table. Alongside these gatherings, we are launching workshops covering technology, financial literacy and more, equipping our network with knowledge and tools to thrive. Above all, timber is more than just a business association. We are a whānau. We reaffirm our commitment to collective support, celebrating successes and nurturing a thriving environment for all. As we embark on this journey through FY 26, we invite every member, whānau and hapori to engage in the many kaupapa ahead. The year is rich with potential, and together we can turn aspirations into reality. Thank you for your continued support and engagement, TCC, and let's make 2026 truly remarkable together. Kia ora.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that report. Just one quick word for translation for me. What's Pākehā?
Business.
Oh, there we go. Should have known. Thank you. Questions?
Been quiet this morning. Tēnā kōrua, and also to your rōpū here. Collaboration, you've mentioned quite a bit through your kōrero. How's that going with organisations such as the Chamber and Priority One? Do you have relationships with them, and how is that evolving?
So in terms of the Chamber, we have an ongoing relationship with them that's dated back quite some years. We have a memorandum of understanding that we've entered into. Probably needs another, look at it and refresh, and in terms of the regularity of our meetings and those sorts of things, probably need to have another look at that. But certainly good relationship, and we certainly have had discussions over time in terms of how each organisation can collaborate and how, what the Chamber can be doing for our members in terms of sharing of resources and those sorts of things. So short answer, existing, ongoing, but could bring it back together and refocus. And in terms of Priority One, that's probably in train, like establishing. We did have a hui very recently to talk about how Priority One can support our members, and so we've taken away some really useful information, excuse me, following that hui, to just think through and think about, okay, well, what's the best use of time and resource, and how can we sort of take on board what they've said and move that forward so that we can see some real benefits for our members in that space as well.
Can I just continue? Chair, so iwi, how's that? Do you have a strategy? I know you're getting more mana whenua people within the organisation. Do you have a strategy to increase, I guess, the relationship, the collaboration with iwi itself in Tauranga Moana, or in the wider Western Bay?
Yeah, we've certainly talked about it, and talked about, like, the hope is that in the future we could even have opportunities on our board for iwi representation, so that there's more of that clear connection, and iwi are involved in the decisions we're making for the association, and obviously important given we've got quite a number of members that whakapapa to those iwi. So we've talked about that being something we'd like to do in future, and part of that will be funding to enable for there to be, for those to be paid roles and it not be expected to be just voluntary. So in terms of having a clear roadmap, we don't have a clear roadmap as yet. We have talked about the challenges around engagement, but we haven't sort of put in place a clear plan in terms of how we're going to go about it as yet. So definitely something that has been on our agenda a couple of times and that we want to develop further.
Councillor Baker and then Councillor Crowther.
Tēnā kōrua. Just touching on Hemi's first point and having a look at your guys' report. Great report, by the way. Awesome to see you're smashing your KPIs. You've written here, Timber remains dedicated to supporting our members facing industry challenges head-on and advocating for a prosperous year ahead. Pūtea aside, how else can Council help support your guys' aspirations, whether it be through procurement or capability building? If you guys kind of thought of anything else that we could help? Venues, etc.? Procurement?
I mean, procurement, absolutely. I mean, we definitely want to be involved in the conversation so that we know what opportunities there are for our members, and then we can, and more advance notice the better, so that we can then speak to our members and make sure that they've got notice to be able to build any capabilities that are required to meet those opportunities. So that would be one way. I mean, certainly capability building, that's, I'm probably not au fait with everything the council can do, but that's definitely something that is a real need for our members, and there aren't as many partner organisations that we can draw on anymore with the changes in government and funding and those sorts of things. So that's one of the areas that we know needs some focus. You know, we know that our members need a lot of support, and the question at the moment is, well, where are we going to, who can we connect them with to provide that support? We can't provide all of it. We try and do what we can in terms of what we know the real needs are and cater our workshops and those sorts of things accordingly. But certainly if there was scope for that, that would be something that would be really helpful. I think the difficulty is the service provision or capability building. It's about making it fit for purpose as well. I mean, it's not as easy sometimes as just saying, well, often it's not. There's a course here, or this organisation can help to teach you how to do X, Y, and Z, because it's how it's being delivered. It's whether it's fit for purpose for our members, it's whether it takes into account what is important to a Māori business, a whānau-led business. It's different. So I think that would be potentially the challenge, but if Council could assist with that, then Rawe, that would be amazing.
Could I just share something a bit that I as a suggestion, because I think what I've read is we've got this commitment that's happened, and we've heard from Terina and said some great things have happened as a result. But if I'm probably picking up on Councillor Baker's comments around what else can we do, and Paula, this might already be in hand, and you're sort of saying we don't know exactly, but if you don't know, then let's find out. And obviously we can say yes or no, but I guess a table of areas that we could, as we go forward on this partnership. The first year's been a really good year, but then we get into, and it's a win-win. Now we had I guess I said a subset of some of your members that came into for a visit about a month ago, and they, raised some areas, like it has been said, of where we could do better. But so it's not, therefore we can solve these things, but what are the things? They could be little things from access to our venues, through to the big things such as procurement, or some of the resources that are actually in here. And we're not necessarily saying, therefore, you can have them, but what might we do to be able to help as really true partners is probably, and I just think that's the next step in the journey of the partnership, and it won't happen overnight, and there might be some low-hanging fruit. We can say, well, we didn't know we could access that, and that really makes sense. So just a whakaaro, just a thought, Mr. Chair, probably as you go on this, hiding it together. Kia ora.
Councillor Crowther and then Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I just acknowledge, having been in a role with a business organisation, how challenging it can be to get members during a tough economic time. So it's good to see the numbers going up. I just had a question around mana whenua target. So you're already at your 30% by the looks of the update. So I'm just trying to understand sort of what's realistic, because I haven't been able to find, even though I've got AI on the job, I couldn't get accurate numbers in terms of the number of Māori in Tauranga who whakapapa to local iwi, even though I know each iwi might have its own, or seems to have their own numbers. But so I'm just interested what's realistic there. And also I notice you have the 3 iwi, but I recall from past events that I've been to that it is sort of the broader Tauranga Moana area. So is it, if someone's from, Wataha or something, do they not count in that measure? Is that, just trying to understand sort of the scope, I guess, and what the realistic goals might be in that area.
So with our membership, for mana whenua, so how it's based, so 1/3 of Pākehā Māori, which are Māori businesses, are based in Bay of Plenty. And part of that, after the Te Ohanga Māori report that was released, so there's 24,000 Māori businesses across Aotearoa. Part of that, there's been an influx of obviously people that have moved their business or started their businesses here in Tauranga Moana. So we don't just look after Tauranga Moana itself. We have been working on a relationship as well, as recommended by TCC at our 6-month catch up, which was having building a relationship with Western Bay, because we also look after the sub-regions as well. And so our purpose, when you look at the history of timber, it started off here in Tauranga Moana, so that's where the basis and the foundations of our membership has started. And of course it's our way of being able to support our Pākehā Māori in that space that are mana whenua, but also not just them as well, those that have moved into the Bay or service or whakapapa here as well.
Do you have any numbers that maybe a bit more info than I could get around what a realistic goal might be now that you've hit the target? Do you now have a sort of like a stretch target, and do we have any idea of what the mana whenua percentage would be in this area?
I think based on our percentages is based on overall, also within regards to how many mana whenua Pākehā there are here. I don't know the exact figure. However, that is growing, and that's why establishing the relationships with iwi, and we're quite well grounded. We have one of our board members is mana whenua, and again, their contribution and their connections into the 3 main iwi do help. But that's data that we collect as well when they sign up as a member, is where they whakapapa to, and that helps us establish that percentage.
Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Chair. Tēnā kōrua. Thank you for the update and the report. I guess talking about a partnership, and we've talked about sort of what we can provide, so I'm actually going to go the other way. We have just tasked ourselves with having an action list on what we do about better engagement, about improving our reputation, about delivering value to the people of Tauranga. I just would like to ask if you would be comfortable as an organisation meeting with us at some stage to maybe give your views on how we can improve that. We know we didn't have a great turnout for the Māori ward elections. We know we're not connected well enough with Māori across Tauranga, and we'd like to be. But sometimes, even with our councillors on the table, it's hard to understand how we can improve. So I guess my question is, would you be comfortable if we said, could we have a coffee and talk about what we might do to improve how we engage, and opening it up to say, please constructive criticism is welcome, because we actually do want to get better, and as an organisation you may well be able to give us some pointers as to how we might improve that.
Tēnā koe. Short answer is yes, we would absolutely be open to that. Obviously, we only have one perspective and we only represent, a portion of Māori in Tauranga Moana, but yeah, no, I think that those sorts of conversations are really important to have.
I'm going to whenua Jackie, welcome.
Sorry, this isn't really a question to the board, but it's probably in response to Councillor Carruthers. Just for some context around identifying as a Māori business, the opportunity to be able to do that under the Companies Register only came about in May 2021. And unless you're re-registering your business, you've never probably had an opportunity to identify as Māori. So that's probably some of the issues that we've had around understanding that, and everybody has their own ideology around how they consider themselves a Māori business.
Any other questions around the table? Or if not, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to the continued relationship. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you. Now, if I can ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Rolleston, mover, and Deputy Mayor, seconder. Councillor Rolleston, you'd like to speak?
It's going to let me in. Here we go. Thank you, Chair. So I think it's come a long way, so I'm very happy to support this resolution. I'm also happy to take the views that have been shared in the chamber around taking the relationship to the next level, which is to see continued collaboration and funding. So I think I'm going to congratulate the Timber and also the council. They had the foresight to make this happen, and the results are showing there. But as you say, it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of volunteers to make this happen. So I want to acknowledge the volunteers that are behind this kaupapa. So yeah, that's all I wanted to share. Just congratulating those. But I think that it's time now to take it to another level. That's been heard in the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Rolleston. Deputy Mayor, you wish to speak now, or do you? Yes.
Very briefly, just to say, I also really appreciate the gender that is presented today, because we're gets a little bit the opposite way around this council table, so it was lovely.
Thank you for that. Actually, it is a bit. A couple of months ago, when the gentleman turned up, it was a bit more intimidating. It looked like Peaky Blinders, but far more friendly looking. But thank you all for your attendance today, and for those that I haven't mentioned, welcome to you as well. I'll just open up for any debate. There being none, I now put the following motion. I will read this, that the City Delivery Committee, A, receives the report, Tauranga Māori Business Association End of Year Report. B, notes the positive outcomes achieved by the Tauranga Māori Business Association End of Year Report in Year 1. And C, supports continued collaboration and funding to enable Year 2 delivery. All those in favour? All those against? Abstentions? None? Thank you, that is carried. We now move to item 9.3 on the agenda. This is on page 45. It'll be the Main Streets Monitoring Report for the period 1 January to 30th of June 2025. Just before I get staff to come up, I'd just like to apologise to Main Streets for the short notice change to the agenda, and that meant that they could not join us today. And so we look forward to seeing you soon at the next 6 monthly. And we appreciate also that many of the questions that may be asked by elected members may be more appropriately answered by Main Streets rather than our staff. So we'll be happy to record those and get them back to the respective Main Street organisations. So we have Kendall, welcome to the table. And Paula, welcome.
Good afternoon, councillors and committee members. Just a really brief introduction to the Main Street 6 monthly report for the period January to June 2025. The cover report sets out the key information and highlights for each Main Street, which I'll take as read, and I'm happy to answer questions on. The attached reports are Main Street's documents, and they are best placed to speak to their content. And we do acknowledge that 3 Main Street representatives were scheduled to attend today. Unfortunately, due to the agenda time and scheduling conflicts, they are unable to be here to present or answer questions. Whilst Main Streets are to present when required by council, this is discretionary, and on this occasion we understand their absence. Should there be any questions for Main Streets, we're happy to collate those questions and come back to councillors via email with their responses. The cover report and attachments can be received in their absence. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall. So just open to questions. Councillor Taylor.
Thanks for standing in, Kendall. Probably put you on the hot spot here. My question, I'll phrase it council related rather than to the Main Street people, but it's about the funding. Now that you've on section 4 of the report, you've got a table there, and I think it talks about the amount and the number of members. So I'm presuming that's essentially the levy that goes onto the rates for the Main Street, depending on which area the member might be in. So am I right in just dividing the total by that number of members to get my figure?
On an average rate, yes, but because the targeted rate is done by capital value for the property, so some members will pay more and some members will pay less. And just to clarify again, that total was last financial year.
No, of course, it sort of leads into my second question, if you just bear with me, which is who actually agrees to an increase in this? Is that a demand that comes from the Main Streets themselves, or do we have a say in that?
That's a fantastic question, and it kind of depends on who you ask, really, but I'll try not to get myself in trouble here. Essentially, Main Streets are independent organisations. They hold an annual general meeting. The annual general meetings are upcoming. As part of Council's long-term plan, we do go out to Main Streets and ask for their preference for what the next 3 years would look like. And so the Main Streets have given us those preferences, and we input those figures into our annual plan. But Main Streets have their annual general meeting where they put that budget to their members for their acceptance, I guess. And then we saw with Greaton earlier this year or last year that they declined the increase in the targeted rate. And so I fed that information back to the relevant teams within council, and we set a lower targeted rate based on that input from those members. At the end of the day, it is council's responsibility to strike the targeted rate, but we obviously take on board the feedback from those members who are directly paying that targeted rate.
Same subject, but we'll just go in a little bit deeper. So obviously there's quite a disparity between, if you look at the average, from one Main Street to another. What do you reckon that is? Like, is it just the pure size of some of them are too small if the rate was sort of averaged out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to tell unless you're looking at individual ratepayers and what they're paying as to whether, you know, some are paying a significant component and others are paying a slightly lesser component, but really what it does come down to is the number of ratepayers in the boundaries that were set by Main Streets, in some occasions 20 plus years ago, and so that's where the rate is collected, and so it has to be divvied up between those ratepayers.
So by default then, if we wanted the average rate to come down, so it was less per ratepayer, we would have to increase the catchment for each of these. And I think Papamoa is in a position where they're pretty keen to do that, is that?
You do have two options, of course. The other option is to not put up the targeted rate and keep it stable over a period of year. And so organisations could, in fact, choose to maintain their rate for several years to give their members, you know, some relief, I guess, in challenging times, recognising, of course, that all of the expenses for those organisations continue to increase as well, just for basic, you know, for basic operational things. But yeah, so there's those two options: either increase the boundary or be careful about the rate you're proposing.
Councillor Roseboom.
Thank you, Chair. This was originally going to be targeted at the Main Street managers themselves, but I'll do it from the other side. All their survey results that they've fed back to us, how do we pick it up and react to it? And my specific one is in relation to the Greater Main Street, that one of their surveys, roadwork maintenance and lack of development. Two questions, but how do we pick up the roadwork maintenance portion and how do we feed it into our system?
Sorry, can I clarify where?
So it's in the opening of the reports, and it's page 6, paragraph 14F, feedback. Yeah, 14, Greater Community Association, paragraph 14, section F, roadwork maintenance and lack of development. That's the feedback from their survey, but how do we pick that up if that's the complaint or the feedback that the businesses are getting? How do we then take that feedback and feed it into us to respond if it's a need of the business association or the relevant Main Street? Like, how do we get it into our work program, for example?
I'm potentially not the best person placed to answer that question.
Sarah, could you add something?
Yeah, if I can offer, not on that specific item, but where the Main Street do raise their issues, and you will see in their report, so Greaton have talked about homeless and transient issues that are that they are hearing from their members. That does directly come back to council, and Kendall's and works with all of our internal teams to make sure we're aware of the problem, that we can wrap around some support to resolve those problems. And so if it's traffic and maintenance issues, Kendall will talk to Nick's team about those. So it definitely filters through. I can't speak specifically to that one item, but you know, when there's parking issues, we engage with all the relevant teams.
So it's mainly around us, how we engage better, both with the general public and with all our businesses. And if they're giving us feedback, we've got to capture it. So how do we react to it? That's more my feedback.
Any further questions? There being none. Look, there's quite a lot on these reports, as we know, and I'm sure that there will maybe some other questions that we will be able to flesh out from the reports to get some answers back to the relative Main Streets. What I'm just going to suggest in an action is that the Main Street organisations be invited to an informal meeting with the Mayor and councillors at the earliest possible convenience. I think it'll be important just to sit down with them and be able to talk face to face with some of the issues. So I'll just put that down as an action point. Otherwise, thank you, staff. I'm still on the mic. Now we've finished with staff. Can I please have a mover and a seconder for the motion? Okay, Councillor Roseboom move, and Councillor Taylor second. Mover, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to acknowledge that it was disappointing that they're not here in person today to actually give their feedback and interact and actually have their responses recorded. Love the work that they do. Yes, very keen to have them meet with us more regularly in person so we can actually understand their needs and their growing needs. And another one is to how we can help them develop, both expand the development of the commercial area in their centre and how they can better be supported in their area around development, and how we can make better decisions at this table to help grow our commercial businesses. Because after all, we are talking about growing jobs in Tauranga.
Thank you. And Councillor Taylor?
Just while I've got the mic and we're in a public forum, I think it's important that the members of the Main Street organisations, who essentially are the ratepayers of the businesses that are in the catchments, need to get involved. And I acknowledge that we've probably had an upswing in the last couple of years with activation of membership, but there's still a long way to go. I think some of the figures, and I alluded to them earlier, that people are paying in a year are reasonably significant in their rates bill, and they get some really, really great service out of the Main Street organisation. So if you're out there listening, I would encourage you to actually participate, get behind your Main Street people, and you can make quite a difference to the business in your area. So a bit of encouragement there, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I now open the motion up for any discussion and debate, if there's any. No takers. That being the case, the debate is finished. I'll now see what is in front of us. I will read this. That the City Delivery Committee receives the report, Main Street's monitoring report, for the period 1 January to 30 June 2025. B, receives the Mount Business Association report to 30 June 2025 and annual plan for 25-26. Receives the Papamoa Unlimited report to 30 June 2025, annual plan for 25-26 and strategic plan. Receives the Greerton Village Community Association report to 30 June 25, annual plan for 25-26 and updated strategic plan. And E, receives the Main Street Tauranga report to 30 June 2025. Annual plan, is that correct? Can we just check that? Should be 2025.
Yeah, they're all 25.
Yeah, sorry, 2025, annual plan for 25-26 and strategic plan. All those in favour? Those against? Abstentions, none. That is carried. Thank you. Now move to second to last item on the agenda on page 89 of your agenda for those watching online. 9.8 major projects update transport, and welcome Chris to the table.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So this is an update report on the transport major projects. So largely proposed to take the report as read. But generally, construction is progressing well at the Papamoa East Interchange and the State Highway 29 Tauriko Enabling Works projects. There's a brief update on the 15th Ave to Welcome Bay project. Currently in the process of assessing tender responses from the shortlisted parties that have been received through the early contractor involvement procurement process, which was previously endorsed by Council. We currently anticipate award of the design phase of that contract in October. Following that award, we anticipate the first stage bridge assessment will be the first piece of work. We're anticipating clarity on that in terms of a structural capacity assessment and a go, no-go decision early next year. And following that, the plan is to progress into the next stage of overall corridor design and broader community engagement, which will likely commence from around March, April next year on the current timeframes. But further to that, propose to take the report as read. Happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thanks, Chris. Any questions? Councillor Kurak.
Thank you, Chris. Regarding 15th turret, how there will be a design phase, as you mentioned earlier, starting at some stage soon. And given it's an early contractor involvement sort of process, how does the design phase sort of work together with the construction sort of people in terms of determining that final design? Does it go right through the system in terms of that contractor engagement?
Yes, so the procurement that we're doing at the moment is for both a designer and a contractor, so we're expecting that team to work together through the design phase, and we're expecting the contractor to be on board right from the start of that to make it a really constructability-led design, and that will transfer throughout the design phase as the design develops all the way through to and obviously it'll come back to council at a future decision on whether or not to enter into a construction contract decision, which will be a subsequent point further down the design process.
Councillor Baker.
Kia ora, thank you for the report. While we're still on the 15th Ave turret, you mentioned the go no-go would be reported back early next year. Is that a us time frame, or is that just, can we make that earlier? Can we apply that kind of pressure and get kind of certainty this side of Christmas to the contractor? I mean, it's going to be a big contract. I'm sure that they can prioritise this go no-go, considering how critical it is for the whole project. Getting clarity this side of Christmas would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that getting the information to inform that decision this side of Christmas is going to be challenging. It's certainly something we'll look to push and do as fast as we can, but the likelihood of doing that this side of Christmas at this stage we don't think is likely, but obviously we'll work through that. Once we get those tenders and understand the details of their proposed methodologies for the investigations and assessments to inform a final decision on that. We'll certainly look to prioritise it, but
that'll be great. Thorough is obviously doing a good job as the priority, but if we could get some dates or rough dates and timelines on that, that would be great. And my second question, you touched on comms and stuff going out in March. Considering we've already engaged with Grace Road residents on matters pertaining to the impacts of 15th Ave turret, do staff think when do staff earlier than March think it would be a good idea to do a kind of town hall event with residents to update them on where we're at currently? Because I imagine our MPs would love to jump on this and champion community engagement if they can. It would be great to get ahead.
Yeah, at this stage, from a comprehensive community engagement exercise, and I guess once we've got some work through that bridge assessment and we understand that viability, that's when we're looking to go, as you say, comprehensively. We're also happy to respond if there are desires. Obviously, the example that you've mentioned around Grace Road residents, they've I guess requested some of those community sessions, and we're happy to attend those to provide relevant project updates and context. And so if there's a desire for something in the interim in advance of that broader session, we're happy to attend and facilitate those as well.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Crowther.
Just a quick follow-up to Councillor Baker's thing. I'm struggling to sort of understand how, like, we've delayed the no-go timeframe beyond Christmas, because at one point in our Transport Committee it was a definite, we should have it by then. And then over the year it's sort of crept later, and I understand there'll be reasons for that, and that relates to the contracting side of it. But I guess what I'm struggling with a little bit is the timing later in the project. I'm sort of been assured that that's not going to blow out. Do we have like a timing contingency? So do we have a financial contingency in there? And if so, what is the contingency for time in this project as it currently stands?
On the overall timeframes that are outlined in paragraph 4 of the report on page 89. They're very high level, so within that there are contingencies. I haven't got the exact numbers within there. We've done a high level program. So again, we've got an indicative outline, and a lot of this is going to be informed by the detailed responses that come back from the contractors as well. So that's what we're currently assessing, and I don't want to predetermine outcomes in advance of, I guess, those contractor responses being able to be informed. But once we've got that and we've got a preferred respondent on board, we'll also have a detailed program from them that we can work off and help inform those next phases of delivery with a little bit more certainty and confidence.
And when would that info probably come to us? Based on current, I'm not going to hold you account, but just, what can we expect?
So we'd expect to inform that as part of the contract award decision timeframes, which will be in October this year, in terms of a baseline delivery program based on the contractor's methodologies.
Councillor Taylor.
Afternoon, Chris. You're looking a bit drier than you were at this time yesterday. So, my question relates. A couple of weeks ago, we went to the opening of the PEI out in Papamoa. Great early morning start out there. Just wondering how, after 1 week, I think it's 1 week today that's been open. How's it progressing? The off ramp.
Yeah, so the off ramps, it's open, which is good. It opened last Tuesday. There's been a couple of minor teething issues there, particularly there's been a couple of concerns from a couple of the adjacent residents, just in terms of there's some rumble edge line attached to on the edge of the as you go around the corner. Some of the vehicles, as they go up the off ramp, have been tracking across the rumble edge line and causing some noise to the adjacent residents. So we're working through that to see if there's an opportunity there to look to address that, or whether that we're working through that with NZTA. There's also been one concern raised around signage to make sure that people know where the off-ramp is and don't end up travelling all the way to Paengaroa. So we're getting some additional signage installed tomorrow to facilitate that. But generally, the feedback from the community has been pretty good, and I'm happy to have that as an early deliverable. It's, as you'd expect, it's working its way in. People are getting used to it, but generally been positive feedback from the community.
No further questions. Oh, Councillor Kurek, sorry, didn't see you there.
Chris, just on that topic, what's the current signage? Is it a big motorway overhead with the? What's there?
So that'll be coming as part of the full interchange delivery. So there will be the proper advanced directional signage, wayfinding components. At the moment, it looks like a construction site, and so we're putting in some additional supplementary signage just to reinforce that. So most people who are going to the Papamoa area know where they're going and are familiar with the construction site, but we're just looking to help reinforce that with some additional signage in the interim.
Yes, I'm more than happy for you to speak. Ask a question, Councillor Morris, for clarity.
I thought Councillor Taylor was asking for my opinion, and it certainly made a difference to Papamoa East residents and wider Papamoa residents exiting at Domain Road. And it'd be a real shame if there's a toll gantry before the interchange, because that would reduce the benefit. But it's been great.
You've used 2 questions already, Councillor Kurek. Unless you're going to forego your questions in the next 2 items.
Councillor Morris, so currently, before that was opened, there was quite a long tailback coming up to Domain Road there. Have you noticed that that's significantly reduced?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have, Councillor Kurek. Thank you for asking. The tailback used to go back to, in some cases, Sandhurst interchange, but in most cases back to Bruce Road, and orderly members of the public would queue up in order to get into Domain Road, and some others would shoot down the right-hand lane and then cut in at Domain Road. That tailback, in my experience, hasn't been there the last week. No, it's only right at the intersection. So that's a significant improvement. Yeah, thank you, Tauranga City Council.
I think we should get Councillor Morris to sit at the end of the table with Chris. No, thank you very much for your time. So now I ask for a mover and a seconder. Mover is Councillor Kurak and seconder Councillor Baker. Councillor Kurak? No, I'm gonna grant you leave so you can speak. Councillor Baker? Okay, open the floor for debate. Councillor Roseboom.
Thank you, Chair. Mine's more of a question of staff. At the start of the executive summary, there was a nice layout of all the transport projects. And I know we've got other large waters projects in there. It'd be nice if we could have a little hint as to when the Greerton water main is going to be doing. Is it before or after we start 15th Ave Turret, or before and after we do start Cameron Road Stage 2? Because at some point in there, we're going to get asked a question of when that's going to happen, because it's going to have a big impact on my ward and possibly Councillor Taylor's if we start digging holes up there. Just come back to me with an email at some stage. Thank you very much.
Any further? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to point out the benefits that we're getting from one of our infrastructure projects immediately. Project's not even finished yet, and we've managed to tweak some benefit that's significant, according to Councillor Morris. And to me, a bit of innovation and a bit of pressure in right places has come up with a great result for the city.
Thank you. It looks like everyone's had their say, so I will now put the recommendation that the City Delivery Committee receives the report, Major Projects Update, Transport. All those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? None, so that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we move to this is the second to last item on the agenda, item 9.7. For those online, it is page 75 on your agenda, and we actually have Sarah Munsden here to, on behalf of staff, to speak to this. And we'll take it as read, actually. Oh, cool. And Brett, sorry.
Oh, thank you, councillors. This is a statutory requirement to annual reports, and as Councillor Schuler said, we'll just take this as read and answer any questions that you might have.
Councillor Kurak, you want to use one of your free ones? Councillor Taylor.
This is not specifically relating to the report, but it's obviously on the subject. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had some concerns from one of our people about a dog that's on death row and visitation rights. I think it's probably worthy of a bit of a discussion at this point. Be interested to get staff's feedback on that particular issue. Just thinking where to start. In relation to impounded dogs that are prosecution dogs and being held in the pound, we used to allow visits to those dogs, and I think everybody's aware that the society we live in is becoming more volatile, and there are increased risks on a daily basis. And because of those risks that have manifested themselves at the pound over time, we got to a point where it was unsafe to allow people to come and visit their dogs. And I'm not saying that's everybody falls into that category, but we just can't tell which person is going to fall into that category until they're there. It is a very difficult time for everybody, my staff included. My staff have been looking after these dogs, they get attached to them as well, and the owners obviously have got their strong emotional bond with the dogs. And we've had occasions where people have been allowed in and because of that whole emotional situation, have become unmanageable. We've had to call the police. Others have breached our conditions of being there, taking photos of other dogs, posting them on online, and so we got to a point where we just had to say no. And it has come down to health and safety of our staff, health and safety of the other dogs in the pound, and in some cases the well-being of the dog owner themselves. From my point of view, I think it's better that they remember their dog in their home environment rather than come down the pound and see it in that situation.
And sorry, just to follow up that, it's a policy that's consistent with other councils through New Zealand for the very same reasons that Brent has identified.
Thank you very much. That was a great answer, and I think for the public that are listening, it certainly helps to explain why we have the policy in place. So thanks for sharing with that.
Tangata Whenua Rep, Jackie Rolleston-Steed.
Oh, sorry, bear with me. Just thinking about what opportunities that there are. Hopefully my voice will carry through. Just what is the opportunity? Because like looking at the number of dangerous dogs and menacing dogs and attacks on people, there's still a good chunk of of data looking at that, if you're looking at 70-something attacks on people, I'm like, my goodness, I had no idea. In a previous career, I used to manage a register for the council around dangerous properties and dangerous people register. I mean, there was a level of anonymity, but it enabled staff that they could see beforehand where there might be some risk. And just thinking about, granted it was not in TCC, Rohe, was Western Bay, thing about one of our babies that died in the northern end of the Bay of Plenty from a dog attack, and I just wonder what opportunity there is of leveraging dog control education in kura and in Māori communities, as well as integrating kaupapa Māori into dog ownership education. I don't know, just has there been any thoughts of, particularly in those rural Māori communities, where registering dogs is probably less frequent sometimes. Just all of that.
Generally speaking, the rural areas are Western Bay, so we don't have that much engagement in that respect, obviously. We have an education officer. We're more than willing for them to go out into any community or community group and sit down and have those discussions around dog ownership and the best way of managing dogs, best way to avoid council staff having to come and knock on their door. I've done it with parolees and work programs and that sort of thing. So it's any opportunity we have that we can get in the door and talk to groups, more than happy to, because it's a win-win for all of us.
Councillor Morris.
Thank you. I'm referring to page 78 of our agenda, background, the two graphs, or as Microsoft calls them, charts, acts of aggression and non-aggression. Are those both statutory measures, or would we be able to perhaps consider a more informative approach, acts of aggression per head of dog population, as the city grows or contracts in dog population? That might show us a good measure of whether the behaviour is improving or not, and the proportionality.
The requirement from the Act is just a pure numbers one on attacks, but I'm more than happy to include that type of information. After your inquiry, I've actually run those graphs, so presumably they can be provided.
And I also note, so if you turn to page 87, which is the second year report in there, the trends in dog aggression do show the percentage of known dogs where there has been an issue, which shows that with the number of dogs growing, the proportion of incidents hasn't really changed that much, so it's relatively stable.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. So just on that, so just in terms of reporting, so reporting to TCC versus police on dog aggression, do you combine your numbers in terms of to give us these results?
Generally, any complaints that go to the police about dog aggression get referred directly to us by the police, unless it's of a really serious nature. But yeah, can take it read that they all come to us.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Tēnā kōrua. Firstly, your guys' care facilities look great. It's great to see, and obviously I haven't been there, but looking at the photos and stuff, that those that come into our care are really well taken care of. So whilst people might not be able to see their dogs, looking at those, they can be rest assured that there's a lot of care and obviously a lot of love by the staff. I've had a number of, so this is just a general query on where to direct people, but I've had a number of queries from residents across the city, a few from across the city as to where do they go when wanting to, express their concern around aggressive dog behaviours and putting measures in place on our reserves from unleashed to leashed to improve safety. Am I clear in my question, or did I just confuse you as much as myself?
So any complaints about any dog activity or concerns, the best thing to do is call our call centre, and then they've got a range of options with how they will record that, and then it'll go through the appropriate staff member. We've got the city split into 4 areas, so a dog control officer is responsible for each area, so their complaint will go to that officer, who often knows what the issue is already, because they might already be dealing with it, so they can deal with it in the most appropriate way. And yeah, in relation to restrictions in the reserves, there's consideration of changing our bylaws or reviewing the bylaw, but it's zero.
Yeah, you will recall that we have a review underway for the dog management policy bylaw, and there was some kind of pre-consultation questions went out to the community through May and June. Would you like more areas where dogs must be leashed? And that information and issues and options paper is coming back to the City Futures Committee in October.
Thank you. Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm just misunderstanding on page 80, but do we actually have the information on what percentage of the attacks by dogs are from dogs that are paying the 1.5 times the fee, the dangerous dogs fee, and how much it from quote unquote normal registration fee?
Don't have that as a breakdown in the report here, but I can say that it's not common for a dog that's been classified as dangerous to have attacked again. And when that happens, it normally results in a prosecution and a destruction order for that dog. So it's uncommon that we get that.
So if I've had just a very small number of people who've raised the issue of repeatedly dogs sort of bothering kids and things like that. So in that circumstance, is it probably the case that a neighbour may not have, for whatever reason, contacted the council as a follow-up, but if you had a follow-up, there would probably be action? Would that be safe to assume? I'm not talking about like a major incident. I'm talking about sort of more. I forgot what it's categorised as, where the dog sort of jumps up on someone. Although having said that, I've just had a friend who's been hospitalised and broken bone and stuff because of exactly that incident. So I know it can be serious, but I'm thinking of ones where it doesn't quite get to that case.
We have. It could well be that they haven't complained, and a lot of people don't complain if the dog owner apologises and does all the right thing there. A lot of the complaints we get are where the dog owner has basically abused the victim and then walked off, so we get a complaint about that. When we get a complaint, an attack can range right from just being a physical contact and no injury through to hospitalisation, and we look at each one in its isolation in terms of the evidence available, the seriousness, and then we rate what outcome we take in relation to that. So a first instant and there's no real physical injury, the person is more than likely going to get a warning. They may get an infringement for failing to control the dog, but most times there might be a warning. And then we layer it up from there with a classification of menacing or a classification of dangerous. with or without infringement, so it's kind of like a tiered process we take. Does that answer?
Thank you.
Councillor Rolleston, hopefully might be the last one.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick one too. Well, I think it is. Did I hear you say that your team are sort of regionalised? Is that your like they've got different areas that they look after? Because and are there any particular areas that we've got the bigger challenges? Or is it geographically even? Don't say Marapihi.
Each area has its little hotspots. I call it whack-a-mole, where you send in some resources to quieten it down and it goes quiet for a while, and then you focus somewhere else and it activates. Probably the most constant area is through central Tauranga, Gate Park, Greta, and out through that way. But every area has its problem spots.
Oh yeah, so I was going to recommend you did it by ward, and then we have a little. We've heard good things about Te Papa today, but it might not be so good. Just a little bit of. But I think having said that, it is there are some common things that will happen in certain areas. I know at Marapihi where they've got a lot of rural and there's a lot of orchards. They're running a bit wilder, where you'll have a different challenge in an apartment area, because you've probably got those little dogs you can carry into up the lift. They probably don't pose too much problem. But I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging me.
What a great way to close out the questions. So we're going to now quickly, so thank you very much, staff. And a mover and a seconder, please, for the motion. And Councillor Baker, move, and seconded by Councillor Rolleston. Councillor Baker, you wish to speak to them? No. Councillor Hemi Rolleston, you're going to come clean about Matapihi?
I was thinking of Councillor Karaka in my statement. He's had some events on his way home on a scooter, so he's going to... But on a serious note, because it is a serious topic, thanks to the team, it's obviously a very difficult role that you guys are doing out in the community. One, protecting the community, but having to make some tough decisions. And so I just want to pass on our mihi, our thanks to you and the team that are doing a good job out in the community. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Rolleston. Open the floor for any further debate, discussion? There being none, I might need to call Councillor Kurak back for the vote, since he thinks he's a member of staff now. Okay, so, you don't want to, Hotapa, you don't want to finish? Good. Okay, so I will now look at the recommendations that the City Delivery Committee, A, receives the annual report on dog control policy and practices. B, pursuant to Section 10A of the Dog Control Act 1996, adopt the Tauranga City Council report on dog management policy and practice for 23-24. And C, pursuant to Section 10A of the Dog Control Act 1996, adopt the Tauranga City Council report on dog management policy and practice for 24-25. Ask all those in favour. Those against? Abstentions? There being none, that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We are at the end of the day, and I will now go back to 9.1a. Item number 9.1 on the agenda, the status update on actions from prior City Delivery Committee meetings. Alistair, you're here.
We'll take it as read. The actions are in need of a refresh, but we got a few more today as well, so we'll prioritise going through those in between City Delivery meetings.
Any questions of Alistair? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I just wonder, and we did make a question of it in the working group, but have you amongst yourself decided what sort of timing you've got in terms of, are we expected to have resolved or closed items within a certain period of time? Because I think it would be useful. We've got a number that are pending and numbers that are waiting for more information, but just as your view on that would be useful, please, Alistair.
I think the council machinery and some of the decisions are such that we have to have a date on everything, and those need to be associated to the nature of the transaction. I would have thought at a 6-weekly cycle for this committee meeting, you would expect an update to come back for that next council meeting, so that there's an update on that. Whether it's closed or not, it'll be subject to the subject matter that's in hand.
I suppose the Deputy Mayor's key point is that we do it as quick as possible. Any further Sorry, it's been a long day. No further questions of Alistair, thank you. Okay, then we can move. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, to close out today? I'm happy to move. And a seconder, Councillor Morris, with gratitude. Thank you. No, I've got nothing to say on this matter, Councillor Morris. All right, then, we move to the final vote. That the City Delivery Committee receives a report, status update on actions from prior City Delivery Committee meetings. All those in favour? Those against? Abstentions? None. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And now I will ask Councillor Rolliston if you can give us a closing karakia.
Yeah, thank you. Well chaired. Well chaired, and I was just sharing with Hotep because a lot of people know I had a previous career at the council, and I was working in the customer centre, and I got a call, and the call said, "There's a Māori dog roaming," and my response was, "How do you know it's a Māori dog?" I'll leave it there. I won't say what they said. So yeah, I thought that was a little bit lighter humour to close off our hui. And a mihi out to everybody that is participating in this massive 14,000 and how many people competing in the Ames? And 11. Yeah, I just made that up, but it sounds cooler. Yeah, so big event for our community. Nō reira, kia noi tātou. Kia tau, kia tātou, katoa te atawhai o toha tātou ariki, me te aroa te atua, me te whiwhi tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, amene.
Thank you very much, and I declare the meeting closed at 11:54. Oh, 1:54. That's one of Mahe's ones. That's a 1.